Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Victoire. I am your host, Emir. Before we begin today, I ask that you kindly consider subscribing to our channel, liking, and sharing our videos. It truly helps us share inspiring stories such as this one with more people near and far. Today's guest was a former tag team champion in WCW. He was also a part of Raven's flock. But in more recent times, he fell on some hard times. However, that has not stopped him from making one of the most tremendous comebacks in professional wrestling history, not only in the ring, but outside of the ring. A truly inspiring tale from a very humble individual. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Scotty Riggs. Victoire. Sponsored by California's own Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market for all your organic produce, healthy foods, and supplement needs. California's own trusted tattoo company and mobile body art bus 760-645-0485. Palm Springs, California, Indian Wells, California, Rancho Mirage, California. They're all considered a destination hotspot, a second home haven. With an exquisite record of negotiating the finest deals for clients, Lowell Folsom III and Associates always deliver. Contact Lowell today at 760-391-2504. Desert Golfing Digest, golfing and travel information of the Coachella Valley, 760-399-6517. And from Yucaipa, California, Steamers, Fine Cleaners, and Laundry, a 5-star service on a first-name basis, 909-797-1947. And if you're looking to buy or sell real estate in the Coachella Valley, then look no further than Realtor Steve Tadros, 760-225-9998. And now, on with the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Victoire. Today, I am joined by, he's a bit of a comeback kid, a WCW superstar, a legend in the making, former tag team champion in WCW, former member of Raven's flock, Mr. Scotty Riggs. Scotty, welcome to Victoire, my friend.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here. Just looking forward to having a great chat with you. I appreciate the comeback kid thing. That's always kind of you're either way too old to make it happen, or you're that youngster who needs that up and coming over again. I'm right in the middle, of being way too old and youngster. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. Well, you certainly look young, Scotty. So, and you move great too. We saw that comeback match that you had.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I've actually just had an open weekend ago in Memphis.
Yeah.
Rest of the tag match through two drop kicks in this match. So every match getting a little better.
Better getting back on track. Yeah. Well, Scotty,
Definitely.
like honestly, it looks like you haven't missed a step. But if you compare you now to your WCW days, it's incredible what you've done, what you've been able to
Well, I
accomplish.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
But let's start at the beginning though, Scotty. Let's start for those who may not know, and for those who do know your career but may not know what happened prior to that. Let's go back to when you were a kid. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your family life, and sort of the things that you were daydreaming about as a kid.
Cool. Yeah, I was born and raised in Savannah, Georgia. My mom and dad were two hardworking, both of them worked at the same time. My mom went to school, which I didn't get away with a lot of trouble for that one reason. My dad worked at a mill, just he would call it a mill, but he was a scientist at a paper making plant facility type thing. So but they worked, good hard jobs. And I had one older brother, and he was the more book oriented person, while I was the kid who got out in trouble outside. I would always, get home from school. My homework would be done. At least I said it would be done. Yeah, I did my homework. I'm off on a bike, doing whatever, this, that, and the other. Get back a couple hours later for dinner, and then I ended up finishing my homework because I was told finish your homework. The parents kind of knew my MO a little bit. But my brother would be inside. He'd work on models and stuff. So we were two completely different people growing up. So my life probably revolved around a lot of sports, watching sports. Basically, watched football, the Three Stooges, and wrestling with my dad.
Okay.
So that was my mainstay time. Was spend time with him, and that's how I became a Cowboys fan. That's how I became a Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat fan growing up, and it was pretty much that's what kind of embraced my life. And then the slapstick humor of the Three Stooges, of course, you got to have a little bit of silliness in there that you just get laughter out of. And so that, I enjoyed that. Me and my dad spent a lot of time together that way, which is very, very cool. It was, again, he worked a hard 40-hour plus week back day. That back in that time was a hard 40-hour work week. And he enjoyed when he got home. It was time with me, with football, whatever. He always made time for my football games, whether it was in high school or college. And mom didn't quite like the sports a lot, but she knew that they were something that was for me and my dad that we invested time together in. So she kind of put up with it. Two guys doing guys things. Mom doing mom.
Yeah.
And so it was blast. It was good. And so my childhood was good. Went to West Georgia College. It's a school right outside of Atlanta. It was a Division II school. Played football there. Got my degree basically in football. And minored in management. So, but I did get I was there for 4.5 years. Got my degree. And so it was good. It was something that I learned a little bit up here, learned a little bit here, learned a bit physically, and it was really something to help me in life.
Yeah. Were you working at that time to support yourself?
In school, no. Football was 24/7 back then.
Okay.
Remember, this was late 90s,
Yeah.
early 80s, late 90s back then. So I actually earned a partial scholarship and learned a little bit more tacked on as time went on.
Yeah.
But so it was one of those deals where you really didn't see your football players working at McDonald's or working at any other part-time job gigs during that time, just because basically football and books were all we were afforded.
Yeah, no, that's great. And was wrestling still in the picture? Was it still a dream of yours at that time, or you focused on football?
Well, I have a feeling my football teammate Samir would tell you that I would have been a professional wrestler long before I would have guessed it, because on my dorm room wall were the Road Warriors, Magnum TA, just stuff like that. The good guys that were tough guys were all, a couple of posters were up on my wall, and we always, like, Clash of Champions would come on. I'd have study hall for football. We'd have study hall, so I would always end up. We had VCRs back then, so I would always put the VCR tape in, hit it for play, and record a TV channel until we got back from study hall and all that kind of stuff we had to do. Incorporating our classes. About an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours later, depending on what we had going on that day, we'll come back and start the show and watch it. And a bunch of guys sometimes end up in the room with me. We'd have on Friday nights in Georgia, there would be a TV show that would air like an 8-hour block of pro wrestling. And a lot of those times we would be in our dorm rooms every other weekend. If we had a home game, away game, we'd have to be in our dorm rooms by 7 o'clock at night, and we'd have curfew at 11, and which means lights out. And normally the head coach, Frank Bohan was his name, would walk around and go from room to room, kind of check on everybody, seeing who's hanging out with who, seeing what's going on. And it would be me in my room and about 7 or 8 other guys watching wrestling. Wow. And coach would walk in, spit a little head, chew in the back of his mouth, do a little spit. Watch that wrestling, huh? Yeah, one of my guys who years ago became a wrestler. Can't remember his name though. Don't know if he made it big, but he's spitting the thing again. And it was one of those things where kind of laugh about it. And I remember it's about 1997-ish. To be honest with you, we had a little football reunion that I couldn't make because I was out of town wrestling, and got a lot of calls from guys. Not really calls, but messages and stuff like that, back and forth, that people were trying to find me to make me come to it because they were all watching me on TV.
Oh, wow.
Since 95, really. Been a year and a half they started watching me on Nitro and WCW, Edmond Night Wars, So everyone was watching wrestling back then, and they were all trying to find ways to contact with me to get me to go to a reunion. And I couldn't go because I was on the road. So it was one of those deals. Like like I said, all my high school guys, college guys could have told you he's going to be a pro wrestler before I even thought about being I could be
Yeah.
pro wrestler.
So you were a big fan then, a big fan growing up.
Huge fan growing up.
Yeah, that's nice. But living in Georgia, did you get to meet a lot of the guys? Because you had the NWA there, right? They used to record there.
I basically grew up on Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling and Georgia Championship. And we caught Florida every now and then. And once a month, trying to think, the USA Network, we were at Madison Square Garden shown live. And that was the WWF, the four W's or three W's and the F at the end,
Yeah.
which was, the early, like I said, the 80s into the 90s type thing of what Mr. Man Seniors wrestling was all about, with Backlund against Jimmy Supervised Snuka, all that era type thing. And that was really good wrestling. And to catch it once a month, it was like, man, that's something very cool. It's the whole of the world outside of the NWA that I saw.
Yeah.
And of course, I always got the wrestling magazines. I would run home from the store. I'd run home and then go straight to the magazine store or convenience store, the magazines were, and I would always stand there and flip through until the guy said, "Hey, kid, get out of here. You've been here too long." I'd look at magazines as long as I could, read what article I could. It was on Ricky Steamboat or Flair or Rock and Roll Express for those guys. So that was a whole genre of my childhood was spent checking out the magazines. So those Bill Apter magazines, as I found out to recall in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was you found out what wrestling, you caught wrestling the best you could on TV. The magazines were great. All that kind of stuff is just to me, I kind of look at it now and smile. It was planting seeds of what I could be in the future and what I wanted to be, even though I didn't want to acknowledge it in my own head because I didn't think I was big enough. I didn't think, I played sports good. I was good in sports, but wasn't always that size, that D1. And I always thought like WWF, WCW, all that was a D1 type player. It had to be a certain size and certain abilities. But it kind of was the thing. If you could tell a story, you could grab somebody's mindset. If you could catch somebody's eye, things could work into your advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah. But so you're a fan of wrestling during that time. What was your first school? Where did you go and train to become a pro wrestler?
Actually, I never really went to a school. The funny story was we had done with football for the year, and I was getting ready to graduate that following year. And it was actually beginning of April, and it was probably around January, mid late January. The principal was, "Hey, you got this little redneck wrestling organization down the road, about maybe 10 miles down the road, that's running a show tonight, Scotty. Why don't you come watch the show with us?" But the football birds are going. I was like, "Yeah, why not? Let's go check out, see what these guys are doing." And we have a ice storm come that night because it was North Georgia, kind of the area where my school was located. And so it was like, well, some of the guys backed out. Two other guys said, "Hey, let's go check it out anyway." And we decided right over there. And when we got there, the matches had been canceled because of the ice storm.
Nice.
But about five or six wrestlers were hanging out, and this one guy named Ted Allen, he wrestled as a nightmare. He was kind of hanging out and walked in. So we kind of looking around, looking, doing the old, when you don't know what's going on, kind of point and look, and you're like, what's going on with this? And you look at the ring area and stuff like that. And Ted just walks over to me, and he's about maybe 5'7", 5'8", not very, just you go, this guy's a pro wrestler, but an older looking dude. And he goes, and he looked at me and goes, "What's your name?" I introduced myself to him. He goes, "You ever think about being a pro wrestler?" I kind of laughed about it. I said, "Well, about this, all that." He goes, "Well, my name's Ted Allen. I wrestled as a nightmare. I helped train Arn Anderson," which is a name that goes off in my head big time because I knew it from the early, Georgia Championship and to the and stuff like that. I knew the name. He's a big boss man. He's one of my guys I trained. And when I went back and did a little bit of research, found out it was, he was the guy who trained those guys. Randy Anderson was a referee for WCW for many, many long time, and he helped train him as a ref. Ranger Ross and a few other younger guys in every town. So he had a hand in training. And he said, basically, he goes, man, why don't you come here every Tuesday and Thursday? I train the guys here. We have our live shows on Saturday nights. We also train Saturday mornings if you want to come to that too. You don't have to, but Tuesday and Thursday nights, come check it out. And so what I did is I trained honestly for about 7 weeks. A couple twice a week training, a little bit on Saturdays. Had my first match February 6th of 92. So I guess that it was more of December when we saw him. I can't remember. I don't remember his football season was over. My mindset was trying to think of January school graduate and stuff like that. But basically, I spent about 5-6 weeks training. My first match was February 6th of 92 against a guy named Lee Thomas. And we basically, the first match, we went over, and he wanted me to portray a bad guy. So I was basically sitting in the crowd, looking at him, going, and I had like a little sweater vest around my neck, tied. I couldn't think of what would bad guy be in that area type thing. Everybody else had these raunchy type stuff on, so I tried to be a pretty boy type thing. And he called me Scott Stud, was the name he gave me. I said, okay, that'll work. He goes, you're a stud, you're a good looking guy, you're a former football player. And so we basically went out, hopped the ring, and had a match. And I was a little dejected going, well, it's my first match. Why can't I win my first match? And then so we go back in the back. He goes, next week you're wrestling him again. And this time you're going over. And here's the funny thing. Well, the next week, basically wore just different outfits, different tights, had the same exact match.
Okay.
Fans didn't notice it, except we had a different finish. But me and Lee went out there and did the only things we knew to do.
Yeah.
And same exact match.
Yeah.
Third week went out and had a rubber match, which of course the good guy goes over in that. And we had the same exact match again. And only the boys knew it. The wrestling fans had no clue. There's two guys going out there fighting each other. Neither one of us knew anything other than what we were told. We just basically, and we laugh about it now, we went out there the same exact match 3 weeks in a row. We didn't know anything otherwise to change it, didn't know how to change it. Nobody said anything to change it. We just changed our outfits of what we were given to wear, kind of thing, and changed finishes. The only thing that was different. And I had a blast doing it, and fans ate it up.
Yeah.
From that point on, I was working every week with those guys because they had a show every week. Okay. We trained every day, every 2 days of the week, and then on Saturdays. Okay. And I just kind of got rolling then. Yeah. And that was kind of the real start of my whole thing was 3 matches in a row, same exact thing. Yep. And nobody knew a difference because we were having fun.
Wow. So that was 92. So between 92, you debuted in WCW. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 93 when you first signed to WCW? Or was it 95?
I first signed with WCW in 1995.
Yeah, 95. Okay.
But I started wrestling doing, which is a story you may get into. I started wrestling with WCW around mid to late mid 93, or just say mid because I'm not sure about the actual dates, but it was a couple years into 93. Yeah. After working a bunch of times on the independent, about a year and a half, doing the enhancement work, basically, putting other guys over and stuff like that. But the match that kind of got me noticed to even do that was from a friend of mine, Domino's Page, DDP. I started doing some training with him. Or actually I wasn't training with him. I was helping him train. I was basically a big dummy that was being tossed around this way, tossed around that way, thrown this direction, caught this way, slammed this way, moved somewhere this way, to help transition everything. Then I'd be caught again, slammed again, hit again, bounced again, caught again. I was basically a bouncing bag, a bouncing ball on the wall for Dallas. But I was still learning cognizant of what was going on. And we basically had put a match together for him to take down to the power plant, which was the WCW school, for Jody to see some things that he was working on and to critique. Okay. And that was actually my end to getting to being able to do some matches for about another year and a half of doing that before I got another break in my life.
That's great. But you worked consistently the whole time on the independent circuit.
Yeah, from about 92 until until 95.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty much all independence.
Yeah. And explain to everybody because, how was it like? How were you able to survive and provide for yourself at the time? You working another job?
Well, basically, when I first started wrestling, you always find a girlfriend in a sense. It's not a polite thing to say, but you did find a girlfriend who had a good job, or if your girlfriend already had a good job.
Okay.
And luckily, I was dating a girl at the time who had a pretty good job. So basically, it was always like, hey, if we work together through this, there could be an opportunity for me on the other side of the door. We'll try to make it work, and that was that type of scenario. But I also tried one of the best jobs I had. I was working on, I started selling newspapers for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I was still a young, good-looking guy. So I would run, and basically, you got dropped at the start of a neighborhood and told to work the neighborhood, going up and down the street, basically from door to door, knocking on the door, selling subscriptions.
Okay.
And my story was, hey, yeah, I'm a college student trying to work my way through college by selling these subscriptions for the weekend, during the week and stuff like that, and take my classes during the day, doing this at night. And that kind of won the hearts over some of the people that I met along the way. And then other people go, get out of here. You guys are always here bothering me.
Yeah.
But, I was able to do okay doing that. But that's still one of those tough things to learn to earn some money and stuff like that. I just would find odd and end jobs that I could work for a few while at a time that worked to earn a little bit of money. But once they started involving not being able to make some wrestling bookings or be asked to choose between this and that wrestling gig you want to do, between those two factors, I would go, okay, I quit that job and I'd find something else the next few weeks to start making some extra cash, make ends meet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
it was always an odds and end job. It was nothing ever steady. It was always something that, again, you hate to say it, but you either had to have a girlfriend or was kind of lucky at the time, a girl I was dating that had a pretty good job, and she didn't mind as long as we were being honest with each other what we were working towards, and we did. We stayed together for a while,
yeah.
and it was good. It was fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of sacrifice that is involved, which a lot of people don't really know because we never really see that part, Scotty. We often see the end result. We don't see the
Yeah,
in between, all the sleep.
there's a lot of guys. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but when I got to go to USWA in Memphis
Mhm.
for Jerry Lawler, I spent January of 95 through August of 95 wrestling for Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
And basically, when Jake the Snake Roberts helped me get that spot after a Thanksgiving Day show, or Thanksgiving night show in a town outside of Cordele, Georgia, which is right below Macon, Georgia. Smaller town, and Jerry Law was on it. Jake was on it. A couple other guys were on it, and Jake asked Jerry to watch the match. And Jerry walks up and goes, "Well, I like what you did out there. Would you be interested in coming to USWA and wrestling in Memphis?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "There's only two things I can promise you: experience, and exposure. You'll make $40 a day.
Mm.
Yeah, that was it to wrestle full time, basically, 5 days a week, twice on Saturday, $40 a day."
Wow.
And he goes, "You may make some extra money selling pictures and stuff like that, but that's it. But I'll promise you experience and exposure." So even when you're working your way up through some of these towns and places think you're making, you're full time wrestler, you're making money, you're still scraping every bit together to try to make it.
Yeah.
I spent 8 months there. I made less than $6,000 in 6 months, and that's 1994 money. What it would equate to nowadays, I don't know, but still, that's not a whole lot. But I put 60,000 miles on my own vehicle. I had a Ford Explorer back then.
Yeah.
It's a lot of miles in 8 months.
Yeah, that's a
Most
lot.
people don't put that car in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I could probably gain more experience and exposure than I could ever qualify.
Mhm.
Because the rest of those nights a week, 4 nights a week, is from the same crowd, from the same towns. You learn to manipulate your matches, change your matches, how you win into your finish, how you listen. But I learned to listen to the crowd, which is one thing that Ted Allen taught me. Ted Allen would always have matches against me in other places as my independent career started going. I would always wrestle a lot of shows Ted would run. They always put me on the shows because I was like his prize student at the time.
Yeah.
So Ted would, and he wore a mask so he could talk to me easily. So we would have a match and da da da. I ended up with him in an armbar.
Yeah.
And he'd start going, okay, listen to me now. You hear how the crowd is right now. And I got him in the armbar, like, yeah, I hear him, I hear him. He goes, now let's do this. He rambled off the spot to me. We go into it and that bang, bang, bang into the armbar again.
Yeah.
And Ted would go, how's that sound? The man, they're into it. They're into it. He goes, cool, cool. Let's do this. And it would make no sense to me at all what he was saying or calling. I'm like going, are you sure? He goes, just do it. And we go into it, and it would be one big cluster of a ding, 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 fumble, fumble back into the hole again. And he goes, what are they doing now? I said, they're shitting on it, man. What was that all about? He goes, listen to those two sounds.
Yeah.
Listen to how they're reacting.
Mm-hmm.
If you call a match and you're going through what you know works, go through what you works. If you call something and it ain't working for that crowd, you hear how it's not working, don't go there again.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So he's teaching me the ups, downs, how to listen to a crowd and work off what they're telling you they want to see, not what you want to give them. Today's wrestling is the kids are so gifted with their athletics, with their ingenuity and what they can do, that it's not pro wrestling anymore, but it's a wrestling event.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't listen to the crowd anymore. They just do their matches, do their moves, whether the crowd likes it or not. It all matters what the TV cameras like or not. Yeah. And if you can convince the people at home to like it or not, and what the commentators at home are telling the people at home, because there's more people at home than in that arena.
Yeah.
So if you get what I'm saying, they're basically telling the people at home what is cool, what's not cool, and that's educating the fan at home that when they go see them at the arenas, what they're seeing at TV, they'll get to see the arenas too.
Yeah.
Before, when I was growing up, what we saw on TV was to get us to the arenas. Yeah. And when they show us in the arenas is their wrestling, their fights, their blood and guts. That was because that's how the guys got paid, was Monday through Friday, not what you just did on the TV shows.
Yeah.
Today you get paid to do what you do on TV, not the Monday through Friday shows as much anymore. What you draw in the houses are not as impactful on your paycheck per se.
Yeah.
You still run those shows.
Now, was it like that when you first debuted in WCW? Were you still playing to the crowd, or was there that big difference between the independents and then the TV wrestling?
You still listened to the crowd, depending on what kind of time limits you were given. And when I started with WCW, we had fairly long matches for TV matches. They weren't a lot unless you were just squashing somebody. If you were squashing somebody, you had maybe 5 minutes total. That's with your entrance and and the finish. So you maybe had about maybe 2 minutes ring time. Okay. I can't think of a time when me and Marcus really started as a tag team that we had matches that would go 2 segments against like Harlem Heat or anybody else, Dick Slater and Buckhouse Buck, Nasty Boy. Sometimes we go 1 or 2 segments, maybe 11 minutes. Okay. Where you have 7 to 8 minutes bell to bell. Yeah. That's what, with 2 entrances and everything else, you have 7 minutes to 8 minutes of actual ring time. That's pretty good for TV.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's not bang, bang, move, 5 moves, you're done, you're going home.
Yeah.
That's where you got a chance to tell a story. So you do listen to the crowd, to how you react. Because sometimes you could be doing something and the crowd start getting involved and it's maybe time for a hope spot. Yeah. Or it's time for a spot for the heels to get an idea something's happening, for maybe for the heels to get them up a little bit, the crowd going, yeah. And then one quick thing, you cut them off real quick. Yeah. You keep the crowd involved. The roller coasters, that when that hot tag is made, even on TV, when that hot tag is made, you want the crowd to pop. You want the crowd to erupt at that moment. So we're all listening to how the crowd's reacting, because if the crowd reacting, if the people at home see the crowd on their feet go, yeah, when something happens, That's teaching them next time they're in the seat in the audience, they see that, they react the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do listen to everything that's going on.
Mhm.
And nowadays it's a little bit different than that, but it's still the same, but you're still more working to just your moves and your move sets to get the oohs and ahs
Yeah.
because you're not worried about how the crowd reacts anymore because it doesn't affect your paycheck anymore.
Yeah. When do you think that started, Scotty? When did you start noticing that shift?
Um, it's hard to really quantify or state that there could be a time
Mhm.
when everybody started noticing the shift, but I guess more to where you could almost go you in one sense you could almost hate to put the stigma on it, but when WWF, when their WrestleManias, their Royal Rumbles, their SummerSlams started to be uh, sold out
Mhm.
before matches were announced.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
when their big shows are being sold out, no matter who is facing who,
Yeah.
is when things started to change. And people were going to buy the tickets.
Mhm.
Didn't matter who was facing who; they were coming for the event.
Yeah.
Once WWF started noticing that, again, I hate to put it put any heat on one company, but once they didn't, they started realizing, hey, we're selling tickets, and they don't even know who's wrestling who yet.
Yeah.
It don't matter who's wrestling who. We can slowly put together matches. We slowly put together this event,
Yeah.
and people have already sold out. We've already, if you can ever remember hearing, WrestleMania is sold out this year with 70,000 tickets. Tickets are already gone on sale in advance, and ticket sales for next WrestleMania are already at rear records.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're saying that one, so they buy tickets, but they're saying that two because it's already true. Because next year WrestleMania, people are already buying tickets for it, so they can be added too before people who are going to go see it for the reason of who's wrestling who can buy their tickets. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. It makes sense.
It's a crazy thing, but it's business.
Yeah.
Anything you're doing is a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how they kind of started incorporating it and started going, hey, you guys, you got to clear yourselves. You guys ain't got to do this. You guys, as long as you can put these moves on, they're going to mystify the people. They're going to catch their attention, and it's again, Scott. The stuff these guys do, they are gifted athletes,
Yeah.
but they're horrible storytellers.
Yeah.
A few of the guys can tell stories, but most of them it's kind of tough.
I was going to say, I think that's the one thing that I've noticed in pro wrestling now that's lacking from the past is that ability to storytell.
Yeah,
You look at an old match, and I encourage any young viewer to go back if you're not familiar, but look at something from the 90s, look at something from the 80s. The storytelling, and even on the independents, though, Scotty, it still exists on the independents. If
yeah.
you watch some of the companies that are out there, they still tell a great, great story. But I'll digress on that, and I'll go back to
I
the story
hear
stuff.
you.
So tell us then. So now you've been on the independent circuit, you've been in USWA, you've been an enhancement talent for WCW. When that moment happened that you got a contract, can you recount that day, the excitement, the feelings you were having?
Um, the crazy thing that happened, like the more I'm trying to think of the right way to tell this story. Um, um, reality based kind of said to me what was happening with my career in a sense is when me and Marcus won the World Tag Team titles in Johnson City. Because again, I came from Memphis, was there for 8 months, didn't make a lot of money, making $40 a day. And I'd actually gotten brought in August. Actually, 2 steps back. How I became Marcus Bagwell's partner was a guy named Kemper Rogers, was one of the production guys. Wanted to do kind of, step out of his boundaries of WCW, producing and editing videos and stuff of that sort, and build a different portfolio and put a music video together. And he knew me and he knew Marcus got in touch with me. I was wrestling at the time. I asked for the weekend off. They gave it to me, and in Memphis. So I drove to Atlanta. We spent the weekend recording a video to an Aha song. But he shot a whole bunch of stuff all over the city of Atlanta. I had a girl that was involved with it. It was a best friends and the girl that came in between best friends type, scenario from the music video. And the real funny part was that conglomeration of he put there. Kemper was using the CNN studios to put together the music video, to edit and stuff like that. And of all people, Jimmy Hart was at CNN studios that day. Like he always normally would be doing business stuff and everything that he normally did. And just happened to walk in and talk to Kemper for a minute, and he saw some of the stuff that Kemper was editing. He goes, "Who's that guy with Bagwell?" He goes, "Oh, that's Scott Stud. He used to wrestle for us. He's in Memphis for Lawler now." He goes, "Oh yeah, I know who that guy is." Da, 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 da. And Bagwell's partner, Del Wilkes, the Patriot, had left.
Okay.
So they were trying to find out someone from Marcus to tag with. They did a thing with him and Alex Wright for a brief period of time that wasn't working out. They weren't gelling because Alex isn't a tag team wrestler. He's more of a singles guy. Mark did better in tag team than he did in singles. Mm-hmm. And it's just your nature to be. Some guys' chemistries are that way. And so the long short was Jimmy Hart started seeing the Fabulous Ones, the Fantastics, the Rock and Roll Express, teams from his era, and he started seeing me and Marcus that way. And so within a matter of a few, I'd say maybe 5 or 6 weeks, with a few phone calls while I'm in Memphis. Think about this. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. On a Tuesday morning, my phone goes, or a Wednesday morning, my phone goes off in my hotel room. Go, I'm going, maybe it's Brian Christopher's, one of the other guys called me, so we get ready to leave or something like that. My phone rings and I go, "Hello," and I hear another line, "Hey, it's Jenny Engel from WCW. Kevin Sullivan wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay, what's the rib? Who's cool? Who's ribbing me on this? What's the joke?" No, Scotty, this is Jenny Engel. I'll put Kevin on the line for you. Okay. And it's Kevin Sullivan. And Kevin goes, "Hey, Scotty, a Boston accent you cannot duplicate." Yeah. And so he starts talking to you about this, talks about that, 2 ideas they have. "Don't get your hopes up, kid, but we're looking at you for this, that, It's okay, cool. We just want to let you know that." And it goes on like this for about 5, 6 weeks. Right. Finally get a call. "Hey, Scotty, it's Jane Engel. We got you booked on a flight leaving Sunday from Atlanta to Orlando. So we need to get you here to Atlanta this weekend." And and I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I gotta go from Louisville, Kentucky, drive to Evansville, Indiana, wrestle my last match in USWA for those guys, turn around, drive from there down to Atlanta, which is a good 8, 9 hours from Evansville, Indiana. Meet up with Marcus that weekend, put some outfits, some ideas together, go wrestle our first match, which was against Bobby Eaton and Steve Riggle, the Blue Bloods. They make us look like $1 million, especially me. They liked Marcus, but they didn't like Marcus. They liked me, and because I was a young guy that was ready to work, they knew that. Because I asked them beforehand, "What can we do this, that, and the other?" And then said, "Okay, whatever you do, I'm going to listen to you." Marcus going, "I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this." I'm like, "Guys, whatever you want to do, make me look good, I appreciate it." Yeah. It was my mentality, because they were either make or break me, and I knew that. I've been taught that in USWA by some of the older guys. So basically, that's how our first couple matches went. They after Regal and Eaton match, they pull us aside and say, "Hey, we set the next 2-3 days aside to shoot some videos with you guys. What we want to do is all stuff on horses and riding bikes and doing all kind of stuff, that this, that, and the other thing, crazy stuff from the 80s they had Jimmy Hart put together." Yeah. So we start shooting videos and stuff that we're gonna put together for me and Marcus. And then that was in August. September started kicking off with the first couple Nitros, which me and Marcus were part of the first one in Minneapolis. We were a dark match against Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck, where we put 30 minutes before the show started in one fun match. It was nothing but old school wrestling with Dick and Buck leading the match. Yeah. Had a blast, is all I remember. The next show, I can't remember what we did on, but then the third show, was the us against Harlem Heat where we beat them for the tag titles.
Wow, that quick.
That's when everything kind of kicked into me that this was more of a reality. That I remember sitting in Johnson City after the match with the belt in my hand that so many got there. Ricky Steamboat and Dustin Rhodes held the exact straps in my hands. The Steiners, uh, Gordy and Williams, those exact straps have been in their hands. Austin and Pillman, the exact straps, exact leather
Yeah,
was in. That's why I keep calling them straps. The straps are what told me the title, not the belt design, the strap itself. A lot of older guys call them straps because that's what meant something. Who carried it? Who wore that leather?
yeah,
And so basically I was holding on to pieces of leather that the names before that held that same exact piece of leather were just history book guys.
yeah.
So I'm holding that thing. I'm a little choked up. I'm a little bit in tears, going, man. We won this tonight. And the first person walked by was Arn Anderson. He saw me look choked up. He goes, "Congratulations, kid." I was thinking about in a few weeks, me and Ric Flair probably want to take them off of you. So think about that way and pass him on the shoulder. Think about that way. I'm like, okay, thanks a lot, Arn.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was the first actual realization because I got brought when I got brought in to be Marcus's partner. I don't mind saying this detail now because a lot of people go, no way, really, that my I got brought in. Excuse me, got a little voice there. I got brought in under a 90-day trial basis to be back with partner because they didn't know if I work or not, and a $600 a week guarantee, which is not a lot for a big company.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually making more doing enhancement work back in the day. I was making about $1,000 a week. I was doing the TVs and doing a couple house shows and stuff like that. So here I am, one after World Tag Team Champions, only making $600 a week. It was a 90-day clause too. And so basically I wrestled for the rest of the year under that 90-day clause. And then it was 2 months after I was still working on the same deal that finally I asked about it to Kevin Sullivan, who basically put over to Eric Bischoff, who's in charge of WCW now. Yeah, we got this kid who's still working under his trial basis guarantee. What can we get him? And that's when I got my first actual contract. I put pen to paper on
Yeah.
that put me at an upper five-figure payment, as most guys got their first year. So I figured, okay, that's cool. And then after that, everything multiplied way much better after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh.
So that first year was basically 1996 is when I first had a contract with
Yeah.
my name on it, put pen to paper that had guaranteed money on it with a check coming every 2 weeks that I knew it was going to be.
That's great,
So,
man.
but again, the reality is something set in my hand that they wouldn't have put this on me. They hot shot it a little bit, but they wouldn't put it on me and Marcus at the time. They didn't think that we would be able to carry some matches, and we were the only babyface tag team they had,
Yes.
other than the Armstrongs.
Yeah.
There was no other good guy tag team there at that time.
That's true.
So every week we were on the road wrestling Harlem Heat,
Yeah.
Nasty Boys, Faces of Fear. I mean, every other team you could think of at that time. That's who we were working on the road.
Yeah. Did you
And so
did you have someone?
it was fun, but it was like I wasn't making a lot of money.
Yeah. Did you have someone to share it with at the time though? Did you have a girlfriend at the time?
At that point in time, I wasn't dating anybody because again, I was just coming back from Memphis. What broke me over my girlfriend at the time that I started wrestling was when I had to leave and go to Memphis, and she didn't want me to go. But I was like, "This is an opportunity we were looking for. Well,
Yeah.
what am I going to do while you're gone? Wait for me. What are you going to do while I'm gone? While we're separated? I'll be keeping in contact with you best I can. We had pay phones, like we didn't have cell phones back then, and so it was one of those deals. It was like, I don't know if I'll be able to last, stuff like that. And every phone call I made, every time I kept getting on the phone somewhere else I could call, it kept getting distant and distant. And so I was like, okay, that kind of ended the thing. But it's like pursuit of it was one of our conversations we had. What if that happens? What if that happens? Well, I can't take you with me here. I can't take,
Yeah.
because of her job too. So again, I kind of came into Atlanta within a few short months. I just kind of just enjoyed the single scene, being a single wrestler on TV, won up the World Tag Team Champions for a while.
Yeah. And
Getting hurt.
what about your family's response though, with your dad? I mean, and all that, your mom. How did they respond to that success?
My dad thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Of course, he did.
Yeah.
He was excited like as much as I was. When I told him, I said, I didn't tell him what was going on. I said, hey, dude, Dad, tune in tonight. When you get a chance, make sure we either make sure to record it and tune in. I said, it's a good match. He goes, really? What's happening? I said, dude, I can't tell you that. I said, just tune in. You'll be happy when it's over. From what I can tell you right now, unless things change, pops, and things change, you'll be excited about it. And he was one of the happiest campers in the world because again, here was something that he watched with me.
Yeah.
And the same thing I was telling you about the stunners and all these guys holding up the same strap and stuff like that. My dad kind of knew what that kind of meant, to see that the belt design not a change for so long that he knew who it all wore that exact title belt, that exact leather, those straps.
Yeah.
So he was excited as I was. So when I got home, we got home about gosh, I mean, it was probably around 3, 4 in the morning, driving back from Johnson City and everything else, and get some sleep and woke up next day and to call him up that night and say, "Hey, Dad," he's like, "Man, I got it on tape." He was excited, the tears in his voice. He was, he just saw that his kid, and he told all his friends, "Watch wrestling, like watch wrestling, like watch wrestling." So all of his friends had watched it, and they were all excited for him and stuff like that. He was getting phone calls all week long, and all his friends excited for him. So it was like winning a state championship in football or, anything of that sort for him to be able to get the same kind of accolades. And so they were all proud of him for his sons succeeding and stuff like that. So it was a good thing that, I was glad he could share it with me, but it was fun. It was good.
Yeah. And your mom?
Mom was like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to work out for him.
Yeah.
I mean, she was happy, but she didn't want to see her son be a pro wrestler. It's like being an athlete, he could get hurt, her son could get hurt. But I mean, it grew upon her, but she just didn't want to see a kid get hurt. And, if we ever, talk about the Ravens flock when I hurt the eye and stuff like that, mom was not happy.
Yeah.
So, because they didn't know anything leading into it.
Yeah.
And I had to come afterwards and say, hey, calm down, calm down. It's not as bad as it looked,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember
because
that.
they were scared to death.
Yeah. We'll definitely get into that.
So yeah, so again, mom was going, see, I told you that, that it was that thing. Mom was holding that in her hip pocket.
Yeah.
But I told you he'd get hurt.
Well, that's how moms are. That's how moms are. That's how wives are.
Exactly. Well, Papa's going, he'll be okay. He'll be okay.
Yeah. Yep. I remember like my dad when I first came to the States, he was like, first, yeah, I got a little bit, you know, intimidated. I came to LA first, right? So I'm
Oh
calling him.
yeah.
I was like,
Don't
nah.
imagine.
I said, Dad, I think I'm gonna come home. My mom's like, yeah, 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 come home. You can do everything you want to do out here. My dad's like, no, stay there. Just but I'm glad he did.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he told you to stay there, tough it out, learn a little bit, see where your failures are going to be, see where your successes are going to be, and make them match, make them work, and forge your own way.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the difference
Mom
between.
wants to take you and keep you cradled.
Yep,
I wish
absolutely.
we lived like that. You can't do it.
Nope, we can't do it. So,
Mm.
man, what a great time though. So you're against all these big teams, Harlem Heat, like you mentioned, Arn Anderson's still there, William Regal, Bobby Eaton. So you're riding this high. Um, what was it like being part of the American males? Because obviously you guys got a lot of fan attention, I presume, right? Especially from women. So what was that like?
Yeah.
That
That's why I didn't have a serious girlfriend for a long time, being part of the American males. It was um part of what we did, especially in the road. Sometimes it'd be like, guys would put their, so how many are you gonna get for me before you get some for yourself from the old with Grizzly veterans, which means, okay, you need to get me 2 girls before you get yourself 2 girls. It was kind of the joke back then, but it was also it was changing the guards a little bit to where If we came up a house show, most people already started knew who we were from Nitros.
Yeah.
Nitros started putting us out there to where, what's the best way to put it? We all became quasi celebrities. We weren't like a mainstream or even a B list or C list celebrity, but people started seeing us every week, Mondays. They started. We were on TV Saturdays, Sundays, the other shows, the B Teen Town shows, stuff like that, the syndicated shows, excuse me. Um, but when Monday Night Show started kicking off, they started seeing us every week as time went on to these towns where we show up in the town and people already knew who we were. They knew who we were, but now they started viewing us in a different way.
Yeah.
We weren't just wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
We're these guys that are on TV now. And so I can still remember Steve Mongo and Michael, one of the lines he threw when we won the belts, or before we won the belts, when the match was started. I think he said something about, yeah, these are the two guys that all these keys that you see flying toward the ring, they're all the ring keys that let's see who's going to be the lucky girls, that type of thing. Something of that another. He's talking about girls throwing room keys, and back then it was the little credit cards, room cards at the door. So it was one of those deals where that became a more reality for me and Marcus. And again, me being single at the time, cool. I was down for it. And the girl I was dating beforehand, when I actually came back to Atlanta, I kind of looked her up a little bit. She was already dating somebody else. Of course, it was 8 months later.
Yeah.
Probably about, I'll say 6 months later, bet we'd actually really decided we're not going to see each other anymore. And she was already dating somebody. And so I was like, okay, hey, here I am back in just 6 months
Mm-hmm.
with on TV wrestling one of the World Tag Team Champions, and you're going out with him. Hey, I'm not gonna make you break. I don't want you to see you break up because of that. But that was, because then I know that was not. She was not dating me for being me. She was dating one could have got her.
Yeah.
But again, I was single, so I was enjoying the dating scene. And yeah, it was a different view of us on TV. We started being seen as guys on TV, which made it much easier to pick chicks up across the country. That's whether you see it as a good thing or a bad thing. Back then, it was second nature. It's part of the beast. So I took for granted of it, made the best of it as I could. Might have been a tough cross to bear sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but it was one of those things that life allows to you, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Now, when
But yeah, we as the American males, we either had heat, the guys hated us
yeah.
because they were afraid of losing their girlfriends, or the girls loved us.
Right.
And you had to weigh your benefits, and that was the kind of fun part about being American males.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right in that high, Scotty. It was a great time. Did you have any memorable moments where you guys really impacted some kids along the way? Because WCW was very kid friendly at that time.
They had us do a lot of it's not the make a wish stuff like John Cena did, where he was requested and he set records and did incredible things. We were basically kind of take this good or bad. We were kind of given, okay, when we get to a town, okay, we need to do this radio place, and then we're going by this chosen place to do this. And instead of like it being a something you wanted to do, it's some kind of a task you were given.
Okay.
And you can either embrace it as a task. I thought it was something that was kind of cool to give back to. I won't throw up a thing and say, hey, I was, I was so, looking forward to giving time to the kids and like that, because it wasn't part of my part of who I was yet. But yeah, whenever I saw a chance to get back to something like that, you kind of smile, say, okay, sure, that'd be something to do. Because there were some guys who go, I don't want to do that. And every now and then it would be like, hey, we got this. I could always tell when somebody else canceled because they didn't want to do that one particular thing that was like, hey, on your itinerary, we've added this. And they knew that it'd be good for the American males to show up there because it was something we would never turn down. A kid's thing, a family thing, a hospital thing. We could always get if hey, we added this to you, means somebody else turned it down.
Yeah.
And it was something that me and Marcus would never turn down. We'd go, okay, sure, whatever you want to do. If we were getting to them, even if it was one in the day or two in the day that afternoon before a show, we'd always do them.
That's
It
great.
was nothing something to I could always raise up and go. We never turned them down. We always did them, given to us or not. And even if it was two in one day, we'd have no problem doing them.
That's
So it
fantastic.
wasn't. I won't pat my back hard enough and throw my shoulder out and go, "We did everything given to us," and ask for more. It was part of our itinerary. It was one of those deals where I'm promising and saying that we did it wholeheartedly because I didn't know how to ask and do stuff like that back then. It was not part of my essence yet. It was not part of my itinerary. It was not part of what I grew up knowing and grew to do out of wrestling at the time yet. Like I said, when Make a Wish and stuff like that really came around, and the kids wanted to see wrestlers and stuff like that, and all of a sudden John Cena became who John Cena became. I heard that he got records. Everyone wanted. Always request. He never turned one down, and even they would do. He would seek out. Hey, I got these days off.
Yeah.
That's how good of a heart John Cena has. I got these days off. What can I do for this place or for that place? Make a wish, whoever it was. What can I do for that hospital, this hospital on my days off?
That's
That
great.
he didn't have something set for. And that's the guys whose heart you can't challenge.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
back then, it was still early in the genre that we were doing it, and it was kind of like it was a task given, but you also could approach it in a ways that it wasn't something you were supposed to do, something you enjoyed doing, and we did enjoy them.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It was a different time. We weren't as
Mm-hmm.
aware. Internet was just starting out, so people were becoming more and more aware. And and then you guys, you were just thrust in. I mean, your career had just started, so you were focused on that, and all these other things that we're aware of now that came later. And it really
Yeah,
we became aware of even medicine and everything as it
yeah,
advanced.
and I mean, again, I use John as a couple of examples there, but he really didn't hit until around 2004, 2005, somewhere in that time period.
Yeah,
A few later after, about almost a decade after us. And when his popularity and everything really hit, he started, steamrolling and things like that started really more happening. That wrestlers, above all, became we want before it was then became they became superstars in that era. We were still known as wrestlers.
right.
Wrestlers were when I first started being a wrestler, and we would go to a town. They didn't want us after hours because wrestlers were known troublemakers and stuff like that. They were the dregs of society.
Yeah,
And even in '95, there were plenty of times I would walk into a place and that's those wrestlers, and we can kind of like put off, somebody else in front of us at the restaurant line or whatever, kind of get called before us, and because we were those wrestler guys.
yeah,
Then, like I said, when Nitro really kicked off versus Raw really kicked off in the Monday Night Wars, and all of a sudden people were seeing us as quasi celebrities. We were the wrestlers, not those wrestlers. We
right.
were the wrestlers. We're in the wrestlers are in town tonight. This is gonna be so cool.
Yep.
Not those wrestlers are in town tonight.
Lock the doors.
Completely different views of how we were. We
Yeah.
were the same people, but all how you viewed us.
Yeah, I think the Monday Night Wars really did help with that because you guys debuted. You were on TV in England originally. WCW was on TV only, I think, Saturday afternoons, and it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on ITV. Most people were out. I used to set the VCR to record it,
There you go.
but then you guys came on cable. I think TNT started airing WCW in England in '97. So it's about, again, 2 years later, I think, than what it debuted out here. So I say that was when it really hit that international platform and we were exposed to you. Because obviously we got WWF all day long on Sky.
Right.
We,
They had much better. WCW was only looking toward the national part, while WWF, even back then, was still viewing it globally.
yeah,
WCW was viewing it nationally. We didn't have we would do a tour in either Germany or like Japan or England or somewhere like that on a rarity basis, maybe once a year. While WWF was running tours of that 3, 4 times a year.
yeah, it was a lot. We were exposed to
Completely different animals.
totally different. So now let's talk about different animals. Nice segue there. Let's talk about the American males. Yeah. Now you're becoming Scotty Riggs with Raven's Flock. Totally different character now that you're going into. But whose idea was it to break up the American males? What was the idea behind that?
Well, the catalyst to that was Kevin Sullivan had already started a idea because he didn't know which way he wanted to go on breaking up the American males. At least let us have a feud against each other for a little while to see what could spark out of it. He did because he wasn't quite sure where we were going. The tag team ranks had grown to have the Road Warriors as part of the tag teams, to have all these other teams, bing, 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 in the mix, and it went from being 7 or 8 tag teams to all of a sudden we had 15 or 16 tag teams. The Quebecers were there. I mean, every little, nook and cranny tag team were all of a sudden. I think even Steve Dunn and Rex King had showed up for a while and run some shows and stuff like that. But we just had tag teams galore all of a sudden, and having none at all kind of come in there. And so it's like, okay, how do we make all these tag teams work and not sit people at home, not do this? And so Kevin started having us file up some matches for each other and stuff like that. And the real big catalyst really happened was we were supposed to do another idiotic flub match. It was getting a little bit, okay, does it make any sense, Steve and Marcus, how we're doing this? It was supposed to be Mark against Steve Regal for the TV title, I think it was. We do a little flub up. And this is about the same time that Bischoff was putting out the 30 days, left in your contracts. And if you don't sign with us, you're going to be fired type thing. You got 30 days to do it. And Kevin Nash and Mark Bagwell have been friends for a long time. And that night, Kevin walks up and says, "Hey, you want to be a part of the NWO?" We got Kevin putting this. We got Steve or Eric put up the story out there right now. And how would you like to be a part of it? And you can come over and join us tonight instead of doing this thing here. Because Kevin knew we were, it was kind of like trying to figure out what was going on with it, how. And Kevin, we wanted to pay back Marcus a little bit of a debt, not a debt, but wanted to help give him a hand up from their friendship over the years. And Marcus kind of said to me, "Hey, this is going on." I'm like, "Dude, go for it." I'm like, "Dude, I mean, this is something you've been a good guy your whole." I think he was there 6 or 7 years already, and he was kind of mired in a little bit of. They started him off as the singles, didn't pan out real well, and people didn't buy into him. Got into the tags with Scorpio and Sergeant Stripes, and that really kind of worked out well. Then got put me worked out real well, and he kind of changed his thing where the American males were a great portrait of who me and him were. I mean, him and Too Cold was more a Too Cold Scorpio tag team.
Yeah.
Even the makeup of the team, dancing to the music, on line yards, Stars and Stripes were more of a Patriot tag team than a Patriot, and then it had anything to do with Bagwell. Bagwell didn't have anything with red, white, and blue. The American males, the outfits we had, the gimmick we wore, the music we came out to, the whole nine yards was more of who he was, identified as him and identified as me. So it brought him to be more of who he could be as an individual. Kevin kind of saw that and said, "Hey, let's make this happen tonight." And so we kind of did. That's what the night he turned on me. And so it was more of a Kevin Nash going, "Hey, do you want to be a part of?" And at that point, Mark saw it was a film that was taken off, the NWO, who would turn it down. If he would have asked me to do it, I would have said yes also. And gone to Mark and said, "Hey, this is going on. Let's make it happen." Da, da, da. And so we kind of, the split kind of gave him a chance to see how he was going to be. And it gave me a chance to finally, after a year of being Mark's tag team partner, to find out who Scotty Riggs could be. Also, what could hold in front of me as something that was going on.
Yeah.
We did our couple of year, or not couple, but a couple match angle against each other, which was kind of hot shotted. They kind of shot through it and said, let's get him some good wins, and then he can start doing anything else that's going on in the NWO brand. And they really didn't make a real war between WCW and NWO except for the top 3 or 4 guys. the Stings, the DDPs, even the Steiners didn't match against each other against the NWO until they finally broke up.
Yeah.
So everything, NWO was winning every little war there was. So there really wasn't much of a war.
Yep.
So, but every little battle, every little skirmish, they kept winning.
Yep.
So it's kind of like going, okay, you're on the Dow beating team. There's no real up and coming force till maybe Starrcade of '97 was Sting was going to be the big hope that year. It was going to be the finalization of the NWO, and WCW battle, and even that unfortunately didn't light a fire to the spark that was WCW. So it was just one of those things where it's like when that happened, I said, Mark, go do your thing. It'd be better for you to be a heel finally, and let's see how you grow and blossom. And he finally had a chance to grow and blossom, and he did. I was proud of him. I was happy for him. It met every need that he needed to finally get a chance to meet and get a chance to do. And then it was finally my chance to kind of get an idea of what I could be and everything else that I could grow upon. And when you're trying to do the growth of who your character and who your persona could be under those lights when you're still the new guy. I mean, I've only been with WCW a year and I'm still a new guy, still trying to find my way, trying to find my steps. This was the beginning of 1997, and we had done the Sold Out.
Mm-hmm.
We had gone off 3 weeks after the Sold Out pay-per-view in Cedar Rapids. Me and Mark went to Japan, starting off one or two shows as the American males, because Japan was, I think, 2 weeks behind, or either a week or 2 weeks behind of what was happening in the States. Even at that time, they were a little bit behind on the news of Marcus splitting on me, and they had seen some of the things that were happening with us, but they didn't see the exact split and everything else. So we kind of had maybe 1 or 2 matches there as the American males, and after that it was me and Solo matches. But we were gone from America for 3 weeks.
Okay. So you
We get back, from back for 3-4 weeks. We were in Japan, right. And finally get back, and we get back on a Monday, or either Sunday or something of that sort, and we show up at Monday Night Show. I work Chris Jericho in a match at a spring break. We're fighting each other, and Marcus comes out for no odd reason in a pair of Daisy Duke shorts. He whips his belt off and starts whipping both me and Jericho with a belt, and that puts us into the uncensored, so that we could have a strap match against each other.
I remember that.
So we got basically off TV and everything for 3 weeks, and then we come back and have one fatal showdown on a Monday Night Show, and that ends into oh my gosh, now they're having a strap match at the pay-per-view.
Yeah. And that was the end of that.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. And that was our blow-off match. Was a strap match. There's nothing else afterwards between me and Marcus.
Yeah. It could have been yeah, you could have had a long program there, at least 6 months.
I even threw out ideas when they first broke us up and we're leading to our match at Sold Out. I said, dude, why don't Steve Regal was looking for opponents right now for his TV title. Why don't you have me upset Regal for the TV title? Not like he needed it. Yeah. It was kind of a useless belt at the time. And I told Terry Taylor those guys, I said, dude, let me beat Regal for the TV title. Upset, Super Banana Peel, whatever. I start defending, and it gives me credibility as a TV champion all of a sudden. Every week I could be out there putting the belt on the line. Marcus come out to do something. And that way we're building a storyline here between me and Marcus, other than you've announced a match for us, but we're barely doing anything on any of the shows anywhere against each other. Little minute things, but nothing of any that makes any. The fans don't have any we want to see these two fight each other, other than Mark turned on me. Mm-hmm. That's old school thought for what we're trying to do. That's a little bit new here.
Yeah.
So they went, nah, I don't like that idea. You give them something simple and they don't want to run with it. They don't want to go with it. And you just kind of go, okay, fine. and we go do this match. It was a popcorn match. Anytime you see the fourth match on the card, you're the popcorn match.
Okay, didn't know that.
Basically means fans are getting up to use the restroom and you get their popcorn during that match.
Okay.
Because there really wasn't a whole lot of, oomph between us. People knew Marcus was going to win. They knew the new Buff Bagwell character was going to get the win. Scotty Riggs didn't have any steam.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, you kind of accept it and go with it. And then again, we disappear for 3 weeks to go to Japan for a tour, come back on a tour either a week, the week later on that Nitro is when we do me against Jericho. And fans are wondering where this match come from. Two baby faces fighting each other. And then Marcus comes out at the end and whips me with a belt. Oh my gosh, you got a strap match.
Yeah. Yeah.
For two guys who are young that you could do a lot with, they're doing zero with.
Yeah. That was
and you just go, okay, cool. What's next? Oh, that's it for you two.
Yeah. It doesn't quite make sense.
Because we could have put the belt, could have had Marcus beat me at at Sold Out for the TV title. Could have had the TV title on the line, and then all of a sudden Marcus has his first singles title, and could build off of that, and then me fight for a rematch at Super Bowl, and Marcus goes, "Oh yeah, you want a rematch? How about in a strap match? Boom!" And you tell the story that way, since Uncensored is a match of steel cages and wrist balls and tables and all this stuff. Okay, how about a strap match here, you handsome devil?
Yeah.
And so we have a strap match for the TV title. He beats me. Boom! How he beats me. First, they wanted to beat me. Was I can't remember whose idea it was. Might have actually been Terry Taylor's or somebody else's, where they wanted him to come out, X-Pac, come out with chloroform on a towel, put the rag on my face, with the referee bump, and Marcus down, and then Marcus kind of go from corner to corner when we passed out in another ring. Yeah. And that way fans would be, there could be some uproar about it. I can't remember who, because I just really can't remember. I wish I could always get somebody to blame for this, but then went, no, we just want some type of simple finish with those two. And that's where we basically came up with the thing where I go this, go that, go clothesline over the top. And when I go to clothesline over the top, he ends up back dropping me. And basically, and even if you hear Dusty Rhodes on the commentary, when my back hits the ring apron, Dusty Rhodes goes, "Oh my gosh, baby, his back had that ring apron. He could tell his legs got no quiver in them," something like that. Some little thing like that where Dusty he even knew how lame the finish was. Dusty tried to make it the finish sound better than it was going to be, that I hit my back on the thing, and that basically impacted me harder than anything else during the match. And that's how Marcus was able to hang me, basically, drag my body back into the ring, and then touch all four corners.
Yeah, I do remember.
So, well, you don't want to make it dramatic that way. Let the guys handle it their way, and Dusty will take care of the rest.
Yeah.
And Dusty, thank God, took care of the rest. Gotta love that man.
Yeah. We hear a lot of great things. He was very great for what he did for the business. But you were humble enough at the time that you didn't cause a ruckus or anything. You continued on.
Well, it wasn't more than just humble enough time. I was still very, very green there at the time. I could have been fired. I was only 1 year deal before that, when that all kind of came through. And that kind of actually led to my last contract thing. Going right after all that happened, I was still working off the year before deal. They had not re-signed me. And maybe I don't know if I'm answering your question or leading into your question beforehand. And it took until maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that somebody mentioned to Eric, hey, he just come off 2 pay-per-views for you, still working on these house shows for you against Marcus in some strap matches and against a couple of other guys here and there. So he's not and he came off with a good run in Japan. Right before that all happened, also he did a tour of England for you. So they kind of, this guy's done a lot for us. Are you going to get rid of him? And WWF will happily sign him up. Believe me, he can come off whatever is going on with you, and they can rebuild him and make him all new. Yep. And he'll be a happy camper, I'm sure, to go to those guys and stay here with you. Who knows? And Eric said, we don't want that to happen, and sign me to a 3-year deal.
Okay.
6 figures with the pay raise every year.
Right.
So couldn't argue with that, especially at that time.
Yeah.
So again, I was still a greenhorn. I was still new, and things kind of. I knew if I didn't have any pull in either direction. So it wasn't like I could go. I'm not going to do that unless you know. So don't give me too many props, but call me humble. It was more like I knew where my you know where my water was filled at.
Yeah. Okay.
So thanks for the humble part though. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I still think though, Scotty, there is humility there because I know there are guys, I'm pretty sure there are guys out there, even if they were green and young, they still would have caused you know, a stinker backstage. I'm pretty
And there
sure.
wouldn't have been a 1997 version of them either.
Yeah.
There wouldn't have been there wouldn't have been a Riggs in the flock.
Yeah.
Scotty Riggs would have done that.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff probably would have went.
Yeah.
That guy's an asshole. He's out of here. Fine. Let Vince go deal with him. I don't want him.
Exactly. But let's talk about the flock then, because this was a total reimagination of Scotty Riggs. And you really pulled that character off well in comparison to what you were doing before with the American males. So when that idea came about, how did you first gel to that? Or were you still at that point where it was like, okay, I'll go with it. This, my job sort of thing. Or did you have hesitation, reservations about that?
Well, the only actual hesitation I had because there was other than the match with Raven where I got hurt, there was no more. There was nothing beyond that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't know what even getting hurt and being off TV would mean for me. Again, I didn't really know. I was kind of I just signed a new contract. I knew that much, but I did not know what was going to happen after that. And all I knew was they wanted Raven to face somebody who had some credibility, somebody who was a good-looking guy, and to have Raven make his first debut on WCW TV be dramatic as all get out.
Mhm.
And that was going to be against me, where he told me to the chair. And when they first had it set up, if you think about the chair unfolded, how the legs would be up in the air, they wanted me to go face first into one of those folding legs. I mean, I even was going. I asked him. I set the chair in the back. I said, if I fall into the leg, with any going into it, it's going to put a hole in my hand. Is it really going to hit my eye? What can we do? Oh, the chair will fall down as you go down. No, it's not how
Yeah.
impacts work, guys. Gravity, things don't work that way, And in wrestling, nothing works that way. I'm sorry. Best way low plans of man them out, do not work. And so I'm sitting back going, like, oh, you'll be fine. You know how to do it. Oh, all of a sudden I know how to do it. The funky thing was these guys treated me like I was a veteran of 10-year, of a thousand psychic wars, however you want to put it. I mean, that I was this grizzled guy that knew how to all the X, Y's, and Z's because I just, even only been a couple, I was 92 in my first match. I first really got something going with WCW. It was a year and a half into business and it was doing enhancement work. And then I left and spent 8 months in USWA, where I really learned how to wrestle in the ring, be creative, learn how to listen to fans, to where I finally got in with WCW in the August 25. After a few months, they put the tag titles on us. We have a good run, being Marcus Gel. And now we're into 97, and they think I know all the answers. Being how to calculate things, being how able to make things work. And I'm going, I'm an idiot in this business. I'm a, you know, I still haven't earned a 10 star. I'm a deputy. I don't know how to do that, all the stuff that you guys want me to do, but I just go, okay, we'll make it work. And Raven, I trusted in him because we knew each other from maybe I met him for the first time when he was still Scotty the Body, Scotty Flamingo, I guess what it was. When he was going by them. I met him when I first started a few months in at a couple of shows where he would come in as the main event guy on a couple of shows and stuff like that. We kind of shook hands, chatted a bunch. We were, good guy. And he saw me as a good guy too. So we kind of knew each other a little bit. So we were on terms of knowing each other were. And we did the thing, and I sold it so well that the guy, especially Kevin Sullivan in the back, was one of the guys who kind of pushed for, why don't we make a little more out of this? And he just kept telling the other guys, there's something to this right here. Why don't we make something out of it instead of this guy's just a string of injuries to bring Raven in? Why don't we get a storyline going here to, so that people find out who he is through a story instead of just hurting a bunch of guys. And Scotty just started doing the deal. Scotty sitting on the shelf. Let's make him work. Let's put him to work and make something happen here. And that's where the idea actually came across as, I'm fighting him, but am I fighting to join the flock? Am I fighting him for retribution for my eye injury? There was that they didn't know what was going on, because there were times where we were face to face and I wouldn't hit him.
Yeah.
It's that little mind thing that Raven had, that mind control that Bobby Heenan would talk about. And he's got some mind control over these guys. Bobby Heenan's greatest. So you got to love when little things that would feed off. Why is he hitting? Why didn't Scotty Riggs hit Raven? Would be a question they would leave off of. Like, I remember we did it. It was in Memphis, I think it was, where he did something and we ended up squaring off. And I just looked at him and I wouldn't hit him. And he turned around and walked off back to the chair. And I walked up the ramp and stuff like that. I just think, we started telling a little bit of a different story that nobody expected.
Yeah.
And it kind of caught on a little bit. It was going on. Wrestling fans started going, what's going on with this? What's going on with this? And it all kind of came down to the match we had at in South Auburn Hills. I can't remember what the name of the pay-per-view was, but all I remember is we kind of put the match together after a couple of house shows. We kind of got a feel for what we wanted to tell and how some things would fall into each other. And a spot that got everyone's attention every night we did it on the house shows was for him to shoot me off, to go drop to hold me into the chair, but I would reverse it and hit him with it.
Mm-hmm.
He'd hit it, he'd sell it down, he'd be on his back. I would crawl over. The ref would be at like a 6-7 count. I'd finally crawl over, throw my arm on a 9, and then a 1, 2, and he would barely kick his shoulder out. And the house show audiences would all go.
Yeah.
On the pay-per-view, there's 20,000 people at the Palace of Auburn Hills. 1, 2, and he kicks out, and all you hear is your friends go, oh, because they thought that was a finish. On the pay-per-view, the arena fans did. I looked, and all I could remember saying to Ray was, "We got him." He was like, "I know."
Yeah.
Like, it's fun, and then he's like, "Yeah, great," because that was what we were hoping for, and when we got it, it was like the biggest orgasm release you could ever feel. Tingles organized out both of our bodies. I'm sure mine were. I was like, "We got him right where we want him." As the crowd at home, I'm sure, but the audience showed us the fans at home will probably react in the same way. And that was the night they carried me off. And the next Monday, I showed up sitting ringside, and we were Saginaw, Michigan, I think what it was, at that Nitro. And all of a sudden, him and JJ Dillon are bantering back and forth about their contract and stuff like that Raven has not signed yet. And I come walking out of the corner, I push JJ, I hop over a guardrail and pop down next to Raven in his seat. And all of a sudden, I'm joined the flock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't that I just showed up like Lodi, Sick Boy, some of the guys kind of, Stevie Ray and those guys showed up, and Perry Saturn showed up, and we're just part of the flock week by week. It was almost like I had fought my way into the flock.
Yeah.
Was kind of the story to it. He fought his way, he was fighting, but what was he fighting for? I'm now a part of the flock with the brain control, which we were fighting. But I was the only guy who put up a fight, no matter which way it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, and Raven had also said, I've heard him say, we've even talked about afterwards, was he didn't want guys who are retreads. He didn't want guys. I was just other American males, completely different look, completely different everything. And here all of a sudden was a part of the flock. And I kind of embraced it because I looked at it this way. I was a Kurt Russell fan of movies and stuff like that. And two of Kurt Russell's biggest movies were Escape from New York, Escape from LA, where he was Snake Plissken. And what does Snake Plissken have? The eye patch.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, the hair in the face, the stubble, the mutton chops, I grew up and on them, but that look was nothing but Snake Plissken. If you ever saw me in the ring, I'd do a little snake thing in the ring. I'd sit in the corner, I'd be on my knees, pull everything up, and I'd slide in the ring. I didn't hop over the top rope. Everything I did was complete opposite of the American males.
Yeah, it was
I
totally.
wore all the grungy stuff. I did the snake stuff, and all that was incorporated to look like Snake Plissken because I embraced that Snake Plissken look. I said, "Hey, here's a character I'm giving. I'm gonna make the most of it," and a lot of fans love it. They dug it. It worked. I got great heat with it. A lot of chicks dug the eye patch look. I was actually signing. If you didn't have the colorful sharpies like they do back then, but they do now. But there were guys that wanted me to sign me. They would bring eye patches to sign because they would actually have us the flot sign autographs and stuff like that. We're like, why? But we would sit there and be like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
no fluctuations. And one of the coolest things that I really loved about the flot was we sat ringside
Yeah, that was very
on
cool.
nitros and got to watch 3 or 4 matches before there was a match we'd involve ourselves in. And that was so much fun to watch the matches with the
Oh
guys in the ring, stuff like that. Very, ringside.
yeah.
That was a blast. That was fun. That was just to watch it at that point of action again. Oh, it was night and day. God, it was fun.
And innovative on the international platform because WWF had never done that. So in England,
No, not at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
in England, we'd never seen ECW. That wasn't televised in England, so we didn't see
Ah,
Raven's Nest that he did in
yeah.
WCW. We never seen that. But yeah, it was, and again, grunge was huge in the 90s. So you were speaking to that crowd. The NWO was speaking to another crowd. You guys were speaking to that grunge crowd, the people in
Right.
Lana and things like
Really disenfranchised.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
that
was,
whole group that didn't want to be, didn't want to conform, that whole thing. And that was kind of like when people saw me as the American male, they saw it as somebody who was kind of established and it was this. But when some people go to the Ravens flock, they're like, there's something wrong with this Riggs guy. He's going straight over there from here. He must be an angry fellow.
yeah,
And the crazy thing was, we had more heat at the end than NWO did. Like when we would drop a Benoit or we jump Dallas Page or anybody that we jumped, we had more steam that just didn't get shown on TV because the people above didn't want to see the fight that we either got leaving the building or because there were a couple times we were throwing punches.
oh
I
wow.
don't think you ever saw too many individual guys throwing some punches. Maybe a few guys here or there, things would happen, but every show we were trying to when we after leaving the venue, after leaving the thing, we were throwing punches. It was
Yeah,
crazy back then. People hated us.
yeah,
NWO were getting back slaps and wanting autographs and pictures and stuff like that as they were leaving.
yeah.
Nobody liked us.
Gosh,
And
yeah.
that was, we wanted it that way. It was a blast to be heels and be hated than
Yeah.
try to be cool.
Because it
Things were changing back then. Heels all of a sudden became cool. The baby faces all of a sudden became blasé. Like nobody cared about the baby faces. They all like cool heels.
yeah, yeah. I remember that
And
change.
we were the guys that nobody liked, and that was fun. It was fun to be that type of thing.
It was fun. It was
And
fun
your
to
chicks want you more too.
watch. Right. More so than the American males. Um, but Scotty, then, so we know that the WCW started going through turmoil, probably what, 98, 99, and then,
Yeah.
SWAT was disbanded, Raven left, but then you were repackaged again, and you kind of went back to that pretty boy Shawn Michaels, that persona. Now, was that something at this point? I see your eyes tell a whole story right there. What was that? We've asked a question.
About to say, I guess you can tell by at least a little bit of my expression there. Not quite what I wanted to do. Not at all. uh, I hit on it before with you where the character that the way I took the Riggs direction there, look wise, especially was the St. Plissken thing. We'd actually gone to Sturgis that year and with Raven and everything else, they brought the whole flock out and everything. And I bought a leather jacket that was brown. It wasn't black. It was a little different color than everybody else had black leather jackets, biker jackets back then. So I kind of put together an outfit that almost could be seen as a new look. It could be used as time went on for the Riggs persona. And again, it wasn't the black biker jacket everyone had, it was the brown one, kind of a tan rawhide, but a little bit darker than tan. And when they first were disbanding the flock and everything happened, I went to Terry Taylor and those guys who were running the creative at the time. I guess you could call it creative. It was more the booking committee. And said, hey, why don't we do this? And gave them a layout, look, and everything else. And immediately after I showed it to them, Terry Taylor goes, "Nah, we're going to turn you back to a bad guy, make you back to a good looking guy again." I said, "Well, how do we explain that?" It don't matter. It's TV. We can tell them something in the middle of a heartbeat, and it's TV. Don't worry about it. You're a guy who grew up in the territories and stuff like this, Terry. So how do you mean it doesn't mean anything? What we want you to do is go back and we're just going to tell you got your eye fixed and you can see now after not being able to see for a year and a half, you can see now. It's all Raven's fault why you didn't get your eye fixed and all this other stuff. I'm just going to go. I mean, how disheartening can it be when you go through everything, you make it work, you come up with ideas on your own. And if you remember the match I had with Perry Saturn before I even went into the flock, it was a Nitro. And I had my eye all gauzed up and eye patch on and stuff like that. And he went and suplexed me outside the ring. The patch and everything came off. If you remember that match, you can go and Google it, YouTube it, whatever. Look it up. I'll come around. And when the eye patch came off, everybody in the back panicked. They're going to go, oh my God, they're going to see his eyes. Eyes fine. There were no contingency plans. I think we'll just keep the cameras away from them. Da, da, da. Thanks to Scotty Riggs, little me went out to Andre, who's the guy who was an old friend of ours who ran effects. He was the guy who was putting together the Mortis stuff, the Glacier stuff, everything. He was doing a bunch of different things. He's helping a bunch of different avenues with WCW. I got to know him a little bit. And I went up to him and said, hey, we're doing this thing where I lose my eye. What can I do to make my eye look like it's gone on TV? And he just basically said, simplest thing is an opaque contact lens. You put it in your eye. I'll show you how to put it in. Put it a few times. You should be okay. It's just a contact lens. And it's like Jake Snake had in his eyes against Rick Martel, but when he had the spray put in his eyes where his, it looked like his pupils were gone, the whole 9 yards. And it's just a funky look. Nobody can explain it. All of a sudden, your eyes are out there. So I went, okay, cool. So that match, I knew I was from Perry. I knew the eye patch thing didn't stay in very long. I worked on a couple of matches here and there. I was like, man, I gotta have something. And that was another thing. I was smart enough to protect the business, protect myself, so I don't have people quoting me. You still have an eye. You're lying to us. I didn't want to hear that. So I knew how to protect myself. I didn't want to hear the naysayers. So basically went into that and did that match. Of course, everything comes off live TV. They're panicking in the back. I'm not worried. I'm in the ring. And I start looking at the cameras. All of a sudden, the referee runs past me. Show your eye again to the left camera. Quick, now. He run away from me. I look at the left camera like this, give it the old eye look. I'm like, I'm going. I'm right now in the back. I know they're going. Wow. Riggs saved us. Of course, they don't get any applause in the back for that. It was just to them, it was like, it's a good thing he did it. He saves his. I don't know how they were really thinking, but and then the ref would run around again, show it again to the hard camera. Because I saved your tails, you guys in the back, and now I'm going, yay, Riggs can show his eye more. Riggs can show his eye more. So long story short, I was actually legally blind in the eye because I could not see anything because the contact lens didn't, you could not see out of it. It's like you can't see it, you can't see out of it. It was like wearing, like walking around with your eye closed the whole time. So another fun thing about that was I was able to about being on the flock was I was able to punch a few guys real hard, and I had an excuse for it. So I could tell Chris Benoit or Diamond Dallas Page or Dean Malenko or somebody who I was working with, like, man, I'm gonna. You could probably owe me a receipt, whether it's now or later on in the match, but I'm probably gonna nail you a few times until we get out there and get adjusted because I got no depth perception until I can get a real feel where. And every match is different, guys. I'm just being honest, and sometimes I'd immediately get a shot back or during the match, here's my receipt. Wow. Okay, gotcha. It would be one of those two factors that went into it, but I was able to hit some of these top guys, and some of the top guys would forget that I just punched them in the mouth, in the match. Like Diamond Dallas was sometimes, it's not scripted and what's going on in his head, would forget that I just waylaid him.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. You okay? Jesus, Scotty. Sorry, Hal, you can owe me one. And he'd never keep account of how many times I tatered him.
Yeah.
And it would just be one of those fun things of being in a flock that you got to do that.
Yeah.
So again, I went into the whole thing of the flock with a different look at the American males. Even it was the role that was given to me. I made the most of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they wanted me to go back to being this pretty boy narcissist thing with the mirror and everything else. And that was Terry Taylor's idea. Terry went, no, we're not going to do that with you. This is what we want from you now.
Yeah. Yeah.
After all that I invested in and showing you something, you don't want to give me a try for it. No, this is what we want you to do now.
Yeah.
And again, like you were saying, everyone was walking, raving to left. Everyone was walking around going, what is the direction we got here? Nothing makes sense. Nothing, especially with the smaller level guys. I wouldn't really say level, but just different tier guys. You had your Hulk Hogan guys, you had your mid-level card guys, you had old card guys, mid-level down. Nobody was giving direction. You were just getting finishes and what you do, no storylines, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a few things here or there, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of disarray, big time.
It was a very sad time. Me being, I was a fan of WCW at that time. I preferred WCW over WWF, and just watching it just tumble. I mean, and it
Yeah,
happened fast. It wasn't even a slow burn; it just burnt. And I was talking to another wrestler. I did another interview, and we hypothesized that Russo may have been sent there deliberately to. I mean, I don't know. There's so many myths
I'd
about.
say myth is a good word for that. The only way I think about that is if there was any legitimacy to that Vince would have brought him and hired him back as part of his writing team
That's true.
soon after, even under the table, something another. And it seemed like as soon as that happened, and then when things happened at like TNA for Russo and everything else, that's the TNA Impact era and all that kind of disappeared. Russo became a nobody wanted him to be a part because they all saw him as somebody who didn't really know what he was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think he went up to the WCW people who didn't know what they were doing and said, hey, I can write your ship. I can make things better. I can get everything headed the right direction. And they went, well, he was the guy who said he was in charge of everything else that was going on. So maybe we need him in here to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two different audiences that's something Russo didn't understand, didn't realize. And I look at going, what he tried to have us do, even I grew up on WCW. I was a Southern audience. I could handle WWF, even WWF, which is New York wrestling, once a month. My Southern WCW, Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling roots. Southern wrestling was a completely different animal, completely different beast, everything night and day compared to your New York style wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what the fans wanted were completely different. When we run shows up there, they would not like anything we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They were booing some of the stuff, going, "Hey, you're such and such wannabe" and stuff like that. And then when I get down in the states, or in the lower states, they would love what we're doing, and we never hear the same thing. But it was two different animals.
Yeah, totally
And
different.
it was what it was, and you got to see who your audience is and who you write towards.
Yeah, yeah.
And Russo didn't want to write towards the Southern audience. He wanted to write towards what I remember being said as the casual fan. So that when the casual fan is flipping channels and all of a sudden they see you, they maybe want to stop, see
Mhm.
what's going on. And because they stop for that split second to maybe 30 seconds, will make them tune in next week. If they don't keep watching what's going on right there that moment for the rest of the night, if I was changing the channel and I saw Hawaii 5-0 and I was a Mannix fan, that's old school TV, back in the day. If I was flipping channels as a Three Stooges fan
Okay.
and saw Looney Tunes, I would not want to keep watching Looney Tunes and give it my Three Stooges. I'm
Right.
sorry. Until Three Stooges ended or ended for good, I would not tune into Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Same stuff, slapstick characters, but one was cartoon, one was realistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, I just said that and made sense of it. Looney Tunes cartoons and Three Stooges are real people hitting each other. Wow, did I actually make sense on your podcast
Yes, you
today?
actually did make sense. Perfect.
Wow, Amir. I actually just thought of that. I've never made that connection before in my life, and that's the first time I've ever used those two things.
Yeah. There you go. First.
Maybe this will brought just turn to a huge storm off of your thing here, people seeing it and going, Riggs just made a good one.
You just made a good one, a very good one there, Scotty. Darn. Yeah.
So
But yeah, good comparison.
too
Good.
bad it's 25 years later than it needed to be made.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Everything seems to be coming back, but
Yeah, that's true. Just very true.
everything is coming back. And speaking of that, so your exit from WCW. Now, did you go to ECW for a period of time as well? Am I
Yeah,
correct?
I went to ECW almost when my contract ended in 99. Basically, as soon as 2000 hit, I was kind of free to go anywhere I wanted to, but I still had about, let's say, 6 weeks of paychecks still coming in for WCW, even though they couldn't be touched. When I had talked to Tommy Dreamer about coming to ECW, and he talked to me a little bit about them, wanting to do some stuff, this, that, and the other. He said, "Well, let's wait to make sure you get your paychecks first before that they might be able to start messing with you and saying, well, you're with this company now. This, we can withhold your money for." He goes, "Let's just get your paychecks first, and then once that happens, we'll get you going here." And that's boom, almost a week after my paycheck stopped coming from WCW, I was already on ECW TV.
Okay. And
So worked
how did
out well.
how did you find that adjustment, Scotty?
I loved ECW. ECW was a blast. I had more fun with Rob Van Dam. I had more fun with Dreamer, with Steve Corino, Francine, that whole crew that was up there at the time. I mean, they welcomed me in like I was already part of their crew from day one. There was none of this. He's a WCW guy, and there was none of that. Those guys said, "Hey," they just were glad to have me part of their team now, and they welcomed me in as a part of their team almost immediately, which was amazing. You don't normally see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They welcomed me in. The first weekend I was there, it was in Philly. Paul, he sat me down. Paul Heyman goes, "Okay, Scotty, this is my thinking about you," and laid out 6 months of what he wanted to do with me through TV, through angles, through everything else. And I swear to God, Amir, it happened almost exactly as he laid it out.
Wow.
That's how good Paul Heyman was. And as you went, wow, I went, wow. Because my years at WCW, not 1 week, not one time did anybody sit down and say, well, after this pay-per-view, this is what we want to do next.
Mhm.
After this bank of showings and what's going on, this is what we want to keep going on with you. And but with Paulie, this was just my first week there. He goes, "I want to do this with you and Rob for the next few weeks. We're going to be writing out stuff where you and him are best friends, which you are. Then I'm going to get you to turn on Rob. And we're going to have a couple of shows with you against Rob here and there. At the pay-per-view with him and Jerry Lynn, where I'm probably going to turn you against Rob. And I think that was Hardcore Heaven or something like that. And then at the summer pay-per-views, we're going to have you wrestle Rob." And then and he bang, 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 bang. And I went, Okay, cool. Because I just kind of took it as this was him giving me ideas or whatever. But then when everything started to fall in place by place by place, domino by domino, exactly as you said, I was like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. And he already invested in seeing me succeed.
That's
Because,
a
if I succeed, it'll succeed for him.
yeah, that's some great
And it
business.
was that, yeah, very good business. Because if it's a different business where he offered me close to the money I was making, and you still needed to produce for him. He just didn't have a whole bunch of people. He didn't have Turner writing a paycheck for him. He might have had Vince helping, but you still needed to draw butts into seats.
Yeah,
So as you did some crazy stuff, you bring in extra butts to seats, you'd be making your worth more valuable to him
yeah,
and to yourself, and up and get paid.
yeah,
And it was a different thing. Everybody worked their butts off there because they knew once they put on a good show on TV, their house shows had to be just as good as TV, if not better. Sometimes because they're performing in front of a live audience.
mhm,
And each week you want to see that audience grow because the more tickets being sold, the more the company makes money, the more you're able to get paid for sure.
yeah. That makes sense.
And that's how I believed it was running ECW. And it seemed to, for most part, be running that way,
Yeah,
even though that I didn't know that the money I was making was going to pay back a couple of years ago debt, let alone, it was, I was paying for somebody else's debt a long time ago, but it was the way it was for ECW. But still, the 6, 8 months I was in ECW, it was some of the most fun I had. I was working with guys that just want to have fun, want to make their matches great, want to make everything work, and you kind of knew your place. And luckily, I'd earned enough where I could have a good place against their number one baby face, which is Van Dam, and could face Tommy Dreamer and any other top guys that they had, and they have credible, especially credible matches, and have good matches, and not be, just older guy coming in here to take somebody else's spot. I'm here to contribute.
yeah, yeah. That's great.
And as soon as they view me that way, ECW was some of the most fun I've had in my life.
It's a shame that both of the companies went WCW and ECW at that time. It's a shame that they both shut down, but say it gave way to a new generation of pro wrestling. TNA
Yeah,
came,
definitely.
so so tell us about then those years after ECW. What happened next after that with you, Scotty?
For a short period of time, I worked a lot of independence and stuff. Did shows over in England, Canada, a couple of tours of Japan again, back and forth. It was nowhere near as steady as it was when you're working with a major company. Um, spent about a year and a half to 2 years working for Dusty Rhodes in a CCW company,
Okay.
which again, that was more fun for me because I was wrestling Dusty on a bunch of shows, which was a blast, which was easy, which was fun to wrestle a guy that you kind of grew up watching. I was wrestling. I had a year-long angle where I wrestled Barry Windham, who was in great wrestling shape back at that time. I mean, and to wrestle him
Yeah.
was a night off, and he was still as gifted as all get out. Then I did a 6 month program with
Mhm. Okay.
Dustin Rhodes, and that was a blast working with Dustin. He was cleaning up, he was getting in better shape again, and working for his dad. And we had more fun you could think of. I can remember we had a steel cage match blow off for our final match, and Daphne, God rest her soul, she was my Dusty put me and her together as part of a ballet type relationship, and we just hit it off tremendously. For some reason, we clicked. And Dusty said Dusty had great chemistry. Or great eye for chemistry. He saw us once together, laughing, cutting up someone, and went, "I'm putting those two together," and he did, and we just hit it off tremendously. Where I could look at her and she would know something. Where she could look at me and I gave her a wink and she knew what to do next. And that's all it took for our communication in and out of the ring. It was crazy how cool it was. And I saw again how crazy, how close we were. That match, I was bleeding, cage match. You're gonna bleed pretty good times. I was bleeding pretty good. I look over at her and she's legit crying outside the ring. I'm like, yeah, what's wrong? She's like, I've never seen you bleed before. Sweetie, you knew I was gonna bleed, but I've never seen it and I'm scared. I don't like it. Stop. I'm like going, well, that was a great time for you all of a sudden worry about seeing me bleed. And we laughed about it afterwards, but she got emotional because never seen me that wounded. You see me bounce around the wall, in the ring for guys, for Dusty, Barry, and all this stuff going back and forth. A little, a little trickle here or something there that happened hard way, or a little bump or bruise. But she'd never seen me bleeding, where it's like pouring down my face, and it just affected her that way. And I was like, wow, if I'm affecting somebody who knows what's going on that way, can you imagine somebody in the crowd
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
either me bleeding or me having somebody they love bleeding that way? Now I know how Dusty Rhodes felt back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s when fans saw Ricky Morton bleed or Ricky Steamboat bleed or some of the baby faces they loved. That's how much Daphne loved me as a person that she was then affected by it. And wow, now I see how some fans react to it.
Yeah.
I never saw it that way. That was, a couple of years in my career, and I finally saw that. I was going, wow, here's a tool that gets overblown, used way too many times sometimes.
Yeah.
Because even like AEW, unfortunately, nowadays have lost the mentality of when is overbleeding or too much bleeding on TV? Is every match need blood? Is every match John Moxley has need blood? And so now it's getting to where it doesn't have it's devalued, unfortunately. And things ain't we getting that crux or things like that happens. But here was me viewing it for the first time, going, wow. On Dusty Rhodes TCW show with Dothan, Alabama, against Dustin in the cage match. It's a blow off cage match where I end up winning, but I'm bleeding like a beaten coward.
Yeah.
Dustin whipping me, pull the post, and I'm bleeding, and I eke out with the win thanks to her help, of course.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those weirdest things where you sit back and you view it a different way now,
Mm.
and you appreciate it, and you tell somebody, okay, if I get color, I don't think you need to get color this week, and it's something that in time maybe I could impart to somebody else.
Yep.
Hey, here's a little thing that happened with me. Use it any way you want to, but it's a piece of advice that maybe you don't always need it this week.
Yep.
And you use it a couple of, it's a piece of advice you always offer somebody. Of course, it's just advice.
Yep.
It's not set in stone. But yeah, I did that for a long period of time and just kept wrestling until about 2007 when I fractured my elbow. I had to have 3 surgeries in 18 months, where basically, I don't know if you see the
Yeah.
scar on my elbow right there, where they basically flayed my arm open, rebuilt my ulnar bone. You can see a little lump right there from where the swelling came down, everything else healed around my arm. That's where the 2 steel plates that were holding my ulnar bone back together. There's 27 screws and 2 steel plates.
Yeah.
And I still have 7 screws in that bone back there in my elbow to hold it back together, put it all back together again. And my left arm was about 2 inches shorter than my right arm. And so around 2009, I finally had my last match because it became too much of a liability for any independents to have on there to have a guy whose arm did not fully work as they hoped it would be, because if anything happened to it, they'd be held responsible for it, and not too many people want to do that anymore.
Does this still hurt you at all, Scotty?
I can tell you sometimes when the rainstorm's going to hit,
Mm-hmm.
but as in hurting, nah, it's past beyond that.
Okay.
It's back fully functional where when I work out with the right people in the right time, doing the right things with my diet work, my body will respond to working out properly, and it allows me to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because it almost came down to a point where they wanted to freeze my elbow, and it would have been like in one place
Mhm.
and had no mobility. I basically said, I'm going to deal with whatever pain is in my elbow, and I will shut my mouth and not say a word anymore, because I do not want that. I don't want to be walking around like this
Right. Yeah.
anymore. So kind of why I went, no, I'll just deal with it as it is, and did.
Praise God for that. Because you're in a great place now, Scotty. Obviously, I wanted to talk about that today as well, because
Yeah.
you are
Hmm.
you are a little bit of the talk of the town in the recent months, because it's been documented, all the changes, the transformation you've been through, and you look as good at today as you did back then. You're fantastic shape now.
I
Well,
think I looked a lot better back then.
yeah, well, hold on. Let me. Yes, age. We all age. You've aged somewhat. We all do, right? But you look fantastic. What I mean is, if you were at your peak there and you're looking at your best there, you're at your peak now and you're looking at your best now. That's what I meant. So let me clarify.
Okay. I'm glad I let you finish.
So, but let's talk about that, because I mean, obviously we've heard the story. Marcus called you. You were in a bad way at the time. So lead us um, through a little bit of that, sort of how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of it kind of goes back a few years more where pretty much during my retirement years, I started helping a few friends run some clubs on Hilton Head Island, where I got involved in more in the food and beverage industry, the I don't want to call it the greeter. Like you ever see Rocky Sylvester Stallone, where I think Rocky's 5 or 6 or something. I can't remember one of the last one he had, where he's wanting his kid to fight, and his Tommy comes in, and then he finally ends up running a restaurant.
Yeah, yeah.
And he shakes everybody's hands and tells stories and stuff like that. But he also does all the stuff behind the scenes, making the club run stuff. Kind of a position I took working security, working shaking hands, bringing in the booze, ordering stuff, making sure the club was clean, run all that kind of stuff. Every little thing in hands on, making the club work for itself. It was part of what I did with a couple of friends
Yeah.
that put these clubs together or took these clubs over. And for about a 10-year period, I lived on the beach with a condo on the beach, was enjoying life, was in pretty good shape, was able to work out and tan and hang out and have fun. And then my mom, who still lives in Savannah, after my dad passed in '04, had a few health issues. So I started going back and forth to help take care of her. And it finally came down to where she was feeling so bad for 3, 4 weeks in a row and wouldn't go to the emergency room, wouldn't do anything, was really struggling at home, that she basically one day I made her go back to the little urgent care place that she went to get some meds to help her feel better. And they took her in the back. About 15, 20 minutes later, they came out and grabbed me and said, "You need to get your mom to the emergency room as soon as possible. Her kidneys are failing her." And I was still on Hilton Island this time. And basically, she got put into the hospital. This is go to Monday afternoon, and by Friday afternoon was in intensive care, not knowing whether she's going to live or not. Because with her kidneys shutting down, all of a sudden she started getting some fluid in her lungs. All of a sudden she started getting actually it was blood in her lungs, fluid in her heart, and her kidneys not working. The three internal organs all of a sudden started shutting down at once. All these things started happening. So she got sent up straight to ICU, and then it came down to a few months. She came out of touch and go 10 days in ICU, a few months back and forth to where she was starting to get stronger. They had dialysis, had all these things. And finally, 3 months later, she finally got the okay to go home. But what could she go home to at the point? It was like, okay, she was going to go back home to her house where she had her cats to take care of and take care of her. She had a few friends that could help her. All her friends are her age or older. She didn't have the insurance. Neither one of us had the capability of like hiring a full-term nurse or anything at that time. So basically, started going, okay, what can we do? What can I do? She can't come to my place. I'm on the beach, second floor. So I just made a few conscious decisions, talked to my brother in Atlanta. He couldn't come down and take care of anything. Again, he was up in Atlanta, 5 hours away, had a steady job. They'd been out for years, so he was settled in up there. So I had the flexibility to go back and forth from Hilton Head, but she needed somebody more to take care of her long term. So basically, I figured, well, I'll get her healthy again and see what goes on. So I spent a few months getting her healthy, and that few months turned into about between 5, almost 6 years of 24/7 care to give her to where, and then COVID hit, of course, in that time period. And so she would go where she would get strong as an ox, would gain some mobility, and all of a sudden, somewhere out of nowhere, something would hit and it would knock her down again. And we'd get her healthier, knock her down again. And that's how it went for years. Even during COVID, she would gain some strength and stuff of that sort. And so basically, I moved from Hilton Head, packed up all my stuff, moved everything back down Savannah to the hometown. And I mean, when you become somebody else's caregiver 24/7, especially parent, it takes its toll on you. Anybody will take its toll on. And I basically kind of let myself go with my needs, everything that was going on. And things just kind of went to where she was my main focal point. I had to take care of her. And she kept getting stronger. That was the one point. She kept getting stronger. And she would get back to where she'd move around the house again. And that'd be a joyous point. And then all of a sudden, a few months later, that someone hit her again. Then again is when COVID hit and she couldn't see nobody. We were very isolated. It was just me and her cats. I actually had the chance to go around and run around to go pick up medications or cat foods if they were there. You know, I'd be from place to place. When you're not supposed to be leaving your house except for emergencies, I was leaving my house, and Savannah's a small city.
Yeah.
I was able to escape around and and go from place to place to place to find our needs and what was, food wise and that and the other. And so I was adventurous that way. And that would give me a chance to make sure she was okay. And then I'd run things that would help me and make me feel okay.
Yeah.
Because I've been an introvert for the longest time, been around people and everything. So I kind of became friends with one guy at Walmart who was a Walmart greeter. His name was Ezekiel. And he was a big Dallas Cowboys fan. So me being a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, we always had always talk about Dallas Cowboys. Oh, talk about this, that, past, future, everything that we talk about forever. And he was my one voice that somebody could talk to that was not just my mom and stuff like that. But it came down to a point where mom passed away in 2020 after a strong fight for a lot of years. Basically, she had a minor stroke in November of 2020. And when you're 82 years old, strokes are not minor. And that was the one thing, unfortunately, that kind of took its toll on her. A few weeks later, she passed away. And it was about a year and a half after she passed away. I actually take that back. It was about a year after she passed away that I was learning that we'd be losing the house. Just foreclosure wise, everything else, I kept it going as long as I could with what finances I had. And I basically the finances I did have at the time that I did put away. My mom needed ramps put in her house for wheelchair access. She needed a few doors expanded. She needed her bathroom redone. So all my money went into making her house much more accessible for her, much more comfortable for both of us in one sense. But everything was to make it easier that way. And so I had limited resources to try to keep the house going. Did it as long as I could, as best I could. And then after that, I started using my disability when I was getting the time to be able to stay up here, stay up in a place here, stay a place there. And then finally was basically after all that kind of wore out, I was living in my car for about 5, 6 weeks when I got a call from Marcus wondering if I could do an interview for Dark Side of the Ring that they were going to be doing on him. They're going to be doing an episode on him. I went, I kind of doubt that. I'm in my car, I didn't want anybody to know. I didn't tell anybody. I would get a shout from Van Dam or somebody else that I knew, or even Francine. I get a message from her every now and then. How you doing? I'm okay. I'm all good. And I'm just living in my car. Or I knew I was losing the house, and I just kind of I can remember I went off and I said, right before we lost the house, I said, dude, Georgia is playing a national championship game. Can we make it to where I can at least watch that game and the next day be out? And the guy went, sure, boom, and like that. And as weeks happened after that is when everything kind of happened. And it just kind of happened, and I just kind of was in my car. And then Marcus sent me a text and, hey, did you get my message about that? I said, yeah. I'm in my car right now. Kind of doubt I'll be able to do it for you, but good luck.
Mm.
And but maybe it might have been the very next day after I sent that text. It was kind of late at night. I sent that text. I didn't think he'd get it or anything. That my phone blew off the hook that first thing in the morning. Hey, what do you mean you're living in your car? And so he got basically contacted Steve Yu, which he was living in Dallas, Diamond Dallas Page's accountability crib at the time by himself, which is a big old beautiful place. And said, dude, I'm in this place by myself. Get your butt up here. What do you mean you're living in your car? I basically said, dude, I'm pretty content where I'm at. I think I've said it pretty much, and it's no big deal. Because in my mind, it was no big deal because I was pretty well to a point where I was going to take my life because it didn't matter to anybody else.
Mm.
And I didn't think it mattered at all.
Well, it does matter, Scotty. You matter to a lot of people, man. Yeah, yeah.
At that time, I mean, I even I even said it. Can remember it going. I mean, what would anybody even know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Would Rob know or Van Dam? I mean, maybe for a return a phone call or something after a couple of days, he'd look to investigate. Would anybody? It would make the newspapers because I mean, it'd just be a body found. And how would they, trace back to who it belonged to? That type of thing. And I was pretty much, I would put it, I was accepting my fate because my fate was in my hands.
Hmm.
I had been through enough. I've been through the trials and tribulations, everything that whether it was wrestling oriented, friendship oriented, whatever. I was at a point where I was just boom, it was it. And I was, content with that because again, I was, it was gonna be my way and it wouldn't matter. And that's when Marcus kind of browbeat me. I'll give it every excuse in the book. I was like, oh, dude, I need tires in my car. Let me get my disability next week. I'll get tires for my car and I'll be up next week. He got off the phone with me 5 minutes later. Dude, we'll take care of your tires. Get up here. Okay, let me look into what I can do tires wise here. Dude, don't matter price wise. Just get up here. And again, he was at Dallas's place. He got on the phone with Steve Yu, who's Dallas's partner in business and crime and friendship and everything together. And one of the coolest things I've ever heard anybody else say was about Steve Yu with Stone Cold Steve Austin when he met him at a WrestleMania or something like that. And I could hear Steve say to Dallas, dude, where do I find me a Steve Yu? Because that's how well him and Steve Yu work together, business wise, personally, everything. They may argue about trying to reach a solution about something, but when they come to common ground, they attack it 100% and make it work. And Steve Yu's that type of guy. He's very intellectual. And basically, kind of found out it was Marcus talking to Steve, Steve talking to Marcus, then working on a kind of a game plan. Get him up here. Don't matter, Marcus. Whatever we got to do financially, let's just get him up here because we'll get him to a safe place. Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't accept any of my BS rhymes or reason at the time. To me, they weren't BS rhymes or reasons. They were my means to an end
Mhm.
at the time. And man, it's never easy. Many times you kind of we tell this regale this thing, but as long as it ends up helping somebody else, that's all that matters. But they basically got me up there, and Diamond Dallas Page was in Alaska, I think it was, and so he didn't have any cell service where he was for a couple of days, and they've been trying to reach him and say, Riggs is coming in. Is it okay? We want to make sure it's okay. Riggs is going to be here. Finally, it was okay. Riggs is going to be here, but if I haven't got these messages, he'll be here for a couple of days. So unless you want us to kick him out, when you get this message, let us know. And Dallas got the message. I finally called Steve, and Steve got the story from Steve. Was like, there's no way in God's green earth you kick him out. I love him too much. He's my friend. We trained together back in the day, and one of the stories I forgot to tell you that kind of got me my way. I kind of told you a little bit about it. Was bouncing ball like a brick of a wall for Dallas being his dummy.
Yeah.
We trained in a ring that was in Marietta, Georgia, back of a karate school that had maybe again being the dummy, but Jake the Snake was there, Brad Armstrong, and Steve Regal.
Okay.
And those three heads with Dallas and me being the guys, everything else put a match together. I got ring psychology from Jake that day. Brad Armstrong helped me with my drop kick, and Steve Regal took a liking to me. So they all also had hands to prepare me for a better career in life and everything else. So not only did I help out Dallas at one point in my life to help him become a huge, even though it was very early on his thing in the early 90s, by the late 2000s, Jake wouldn't be, or not Jake, but Dallas wouldn't be where he would be at if I hadn't helped to at least to a point then and everything at that point beyond. But I got to help him get to a point. And it wasn't the fact that we helped each other, it's that we loved each other. We gave each other to each other throughout the years. And Dallas loved me. He's like, dude, I want him to be where he's safe and sound. And if they said they come to the crib, have him be there. And Dallas brought me in, browbeat about me also about, dude, what do you mean you're going to take your life? You're good looking this, you're good looking that, even though I was out of shape, my mouth was a wreck. The money I put towards my mouth or had allocated towards my mouth had gone to fix my mom's house up and stuff like that too. So everything in my body kind of physically falling apart a little bit. And Dallas said, dude, you're at my place here now, but I want to be your place. And I didn't feel like I belonged at all for a couple of weeks. They kind of let me like a newborn, a feral cat being brought into a house and kind of learning the grounds, learning what could be there. If you touch this, you're gonna get hit. And you kind of, is it okay if I sit on the couch, or is this okay to be at? I had a room, I had an upstairs room, and everything that was mine. I was a wing kind of away from everybody to a point too, where it's like, okay, I have some peace, quiet, everything was good. I was room right above the garage. And Dallas said, dude, I don't ever want you to think about paying me back. Because how you going to pay me back is by becoming the best you can be. At this age in your life, it don't matter. Just become the best you can be.
Yeah.
And I started the very next week working out with Marcus and Steve. So I was actually, when you sleep in your car, you kind of get you don't have a clock or a TV or anything that kind of tells you stay up at night to watch your shows or whatever. When it got dark, you kind of got tired. When the sun came up, you kind of woke up.
Okay.
And that's kind of what happened to my clock on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going to bed around 10, 11, when I could think I fell asleep. And I wouldn't wake up until around maybe 6:30 in the morning when the sun started coming up. I'd kind of wake up, get going a little bit. And even when I was sleeping in my car, I would get up and do about maybe 15, 20 minutes of some DDPY, some stretches I knew to make my back feel good, my legs feel good, my hips, shoulders, work my body up. And we spend some time doing that. I do some stretches like that later in the afternoon too. And I slowly but surely, when I finally got to Dallas's, I was going to bed 10, 11 o'clock at night and waking up 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning And I was the only one up at the crib, and Marcus was there with his girlfriend, and a couple other people would be staying there during the week here or there for this, that, the other. And I was up, and nobody else was up until around 10 or 11 o'clock.
Mhm.
So I started getting up, and I would do some, again, 20, 30 minutes of DDPY in the morning, like I normally did. But there was an elliptical in the garage that nobody used. It was unplugged and kind of stuck into a corner. So I kind of moved some stuff around the garage, set up, and started doing some cardio first thing in the morning to get my body going.
Yeah.
And that became a habit. I do my DDPY, I do my cardio on the elliptical. I sort of started building where I was doing, 30 minutes of DDPY, 40 minutes of DDPY, and an hour every morning of cardio. So I'd be doing basically 2 hours of cardio and stuff in the mornings before we even lifted a weight that night. I would go over to Dallas's a couple of times during the week when he had the schedule. I could get a couple of workouts with him, do a few things with him in his house. There was basically, it was good encouragement. It was good to do this and see what you do here. Find out that he always said, I've always had people tell me they do my stuff and then I do a workout with them and they're done in 5 minutes. That you actually did it because we're 30 minutes in and you're still going. Because you actually did this stuff. I said, well, I told you I did. He goes, I heard that way too often. But it was part of my routine. Even my mom was sick. It was stuff I was doing to help me maintain some stability. So I've been doing it for a long time. But to make a long story short, Dallas said, become the best you can be. He took a before picture, which I'm pretty sure you've probably seen, where I'm around 240 with a 38-inch waist. In 6 months, I went from that 240, 38-inch to about 221 with about a 35-inch waist. So I've lost 3 inches of my waist in 6 months and dropped about 20 pounds. I mean, I thought I kind of moved up some weight that was lost into some chest, into some arms, because now to tell you the best after picture is a really great shitty before picture. And I had a really great shitty before picture. Believe me, I don't want people to see that thing, but when I see it and see the after, I go, you can show that. Good, but that's a horrifying picture you don't want nobody to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a horrifying picture you don't want to go back to.
No, no, no.
So those are some things that basically got me from where I was really at a depth in my life for Dallas. The people that were around him the most with positive energy, with great attitudes, with willing to invest back into me, with wanting nothing in return, but just to become the best you can, to where I'm at today, to where I've finally gotten in some best shape of my life, where I feel really good, to where I'm healthy again, where I feel like I want to continue to learn to where I can invest what has happened to me over the past couple of years into somebody else who might be struggling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to say, now you've got that perfect platform. You had a international platform as a pro wrestler for all those years. You've got a business acumen. You can talk well. You articulate well. As you're about to say something.
Well, one of the reasons I can talk well and articulate well is I have
Yes, you got
a
your
smile now.
got your
I know
smile.
that was part of this. That was part of the story. Also, was where my mouth was a shambles, and no matter how well we built the body again, the spirit is connected to the confidence.
Yeah.
And when you don't have a smile, when you can't articulate what I just articulate to you without a smile, without confidence, without trying to hide behind that big old beard I had before. That was one of the main reasons I had the beard. It was a security blanket. I could hide behind it. Didn't have to smile. And if I did smile, it was kind of a cheesy little grin, a corner thing that you show people. So basically, it ended up being to where Dallas was able to get me hooked up with Nubia. It's a group out of Utah that helped him with another person who transformed from an incredibly telling story and to where they took care of his mouth for him. And that they were always saying, if you got another transformational story, please share it with us. And the minute that I shared mine with them, they were like, what can we do for them? And Dallas was like, well, man, it's only a few minutes, right? the story he's at right now, from what we think can be told, if you listen to us, this can be a great story. And it still continued on for a few more months. They were willing to almost, the crazy part of this, but if I'm right about it, about 3 to 4 months into it, Dallas kind of started telling about me and was sending a few update things of me. And they were already seeing changes in me that if I showed you 3 weeks in the story but you still spent the next 6 weeks with me, and then finally showed them a 6 weeks picture, they would see an instant change in how I looked physically and how my body was reshaping itself that you wouldn't see because you're spending every day with me. You wouldn't see the subtle changes that they started seeing. And there were people when this guy's what's happening with him. This is happening and everything. And that was actually he goes, you changed. He goes, we didn't expect you to change in 6 months the way you did. I said, well, Dallas, you told me the best way I could pay you back was because the best thing could be possible. Pay you back as soon as possible, brother. I said, I wanted you to know you were being paid back as quick as possible. That I was just wanting, somebody's going to hang on and do work forever for a long period of time. That you were already going to see benefits paid back to you as soon as possible. So I started putting the work in for you because of what you've done for me and how well you opened everything to me. And I was just like, woof. We didn't expect, we thought maybe a year and you'd be this way. We didn't expect 6 months. You blew everything out of the water.
Yeah.
And it's because it was what my mom taught me, where my dad taught me, you pay back tenfold. And what somebody give me tenfold, or from them was something I could only expound upon.
Yeah.
And so it was something that the next part of the change overall was to get my teeth done right. And
They've done well.
they've done them right. They've done me right on that. And that does make it easier for you to explain every little aspect to articulate, like you said. To be able to articulate it, you gotta have that confidence. And the smile was the last bit of confidence. Physically, I was a lot more confident. I could be around people. Even though my mouth was a wreck, I actually went and did 2 conventions. They weren't big, but they were still something we were out in front of people when my mouth was a mess. But I still had they basically gave me a haircut and trimmed my beard up to where it would take away a look. How you want to say the focus of anything in my mouth. The beard would still kind of take away from that. So if I did have to smile, I did have to grin or whatever, there wouldn't be a focus of the mouth wouldn't shape. So I ended up getting in front of people, but my body transformation made people go, wow, look at that. And I can still hide behind the beard and have some security, be in front of fans in public that way until my mouth finally got done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, having the mouth done, having the body back in shape, everything. You're a few little aches and pains that come along, but nothing you can complain about other than being 57 years old and you feel good because you're living life.
Yeah. And you're living your best now, Scotty. And it's an inspiring story. I was inspired by your story. I'm sure everybody out there in wrestling, whether they knew you in the 90s or they're getting to know you now, it truly is one of the most inspiring tales of the modern era of wrestling. To see you guys, one of the reasons I started this show, Scotty, it's called Victoire, which is victory in French, is I wanted to show the victories of guys that in a sport and an entertainment that I loved. I wanted to give you guys a platform to be able to also say thank you to you guys as a thank you, to keep something clean and positive and share your stories, like you said, that maybe somebody watching now or maybe even 5 years from now may take away from this and be inspired by that, and may not have anyone to talk to, but them listening to you talk, someone who went through it, that may be all they need to hear to lead them on to road to recovery. So
well, hopefully you can edit all that gobbledygook about my wrestling career out of there into maybe a 10-minute snippet of good stuff. And then the last, whatever we just spoke to, half hour here about the changes in my life for the better. and focus on that.
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah,
hopefully, you get some good stuff out of that, but then you finish off strong with a longer period of that. You editing guys, you know how to put your story together, how to
yeah,
get your
yeah.
show together.
Yeah, I can put it together, but for sure, definitely that's the
Yeah.
is
Get
the
that wrestling stuff out there and talk about the good stuff.
yeah, exactly. Well, like I said, wrestling fans know that. Some people don't, but the good stuff is how we can contribute, how you can help now. So, it's been a blessing, and I'm glad that you had those people in your life. I'm glad that Marcus acted when he acted, and that God's got a reason for you. God's got a plan for you, and it's already happening.
Yes, sir.
So, it's a blessing. And thank you so much, Scotty, for sharing that story with us today. And
But Damir, it's been incredible talking to you. I appreciate all the listening to all those goofy stories from the wrestling days. And man, again, like you said, if what anybody hears and at least listen to this is if um don't be afraid to reach out. And if somebody asks that tough question, don't be afraid to answer honestly. Because I could have blew off Marcus. I could blew off any points that when Steve was pressing Marcus to say, "Hey, dude, don't hang up," on him, or call him back in 5 minutes, or call him back in 1 minute and say, "We'll take care of this, we'll take care of that." You don't have Steve U behind the background there saying that either. And then if you didn't have Dallas, you know what I'm saying, and Dallas saying, "Hey, I was just become the best you can be." If all these little things had at least happened for me that way, I still could have been like in my own mind, "Hey, appreciate it, appreciate it." And I'm out and still turn around and, go back to Savannah or go where I wanted to go and still take care of things the way I want to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because I did listen, because I did answer, because I did, you know, uh, I guess you could say kind of reached out when I had gotten the message. I didn't have to reply,
Mhm.
but something inside me told me,
Yeah.
listen to that person inside you. That person inside you might be the one that's still screaming out for you
Yeah.
to reply to that call, reply to that text message.
Yeah.
That's what opens the door for greater things to come when you're at your darkest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And for anybody listening to this at this point in your show, remember, just if you're listening to it now, you come to the best part of it, and just reach out and listen, talk.
Mhm.
Don't basically listen, don't talk. Share and then be quiet and listen to whoever wants to help you, accept the help. That's how you're going to be further on to where once you accept the help, you're going to a point where you're able to help somebody else
Yep.
pay it forward.
Amen. Everybody needs help in life. And, I remind the viewers of that. Yeah, everybody needs help. No one can accomplish
Definitely.
themselves. It doesn't happen like that. Hollywood may portray it like that, but it's not real. In reality, it takes an army, and you've got to listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. There you go.
Bingo. Yes, sir, on that one. Definitely.
Scotty, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. Stay on. We'll have a brief chat before I get you off. But thank you, everybody, for joining us today and sharing in the story of Scotty Riggs. Certainly a very inspirational tale, and we hope that it helped somebody out there at some point now or in the future. Until next time, victor what you must victor in your life. Victoire. All right. There we go, Scotty. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Victoire. We hope that you enjoyed the content, and we ask that you consider subscribing to our channel, liking, and sharing our videos. Until next time, victor what you must victor in your life. Victoire.